So the
Okay.
Banelings just got blown up, all of them not even connecting at all.
Yeah, and look, how is the Protoss supposed to stop this Bioforce? They just had the wrong... He has a lot of Void Rays, but this is mass Bio, man. Where is the Zerg? There's no Zerg, and this is what I'm telling you. All those wasted lings in the beginning means it's really just one guy.
So he
Errors
scans
are
the
running
Baneling.
away. And where's he going? Oh, he's gonna take care of this. The Banelings are gonna do a nice job of this. Oh, he could have killed this planetary, but
Planetary.
what happened?
Right?
They do need to go together. This is a lot of carriers. There is 2 drops again. Maligan's gonna try a drop again. But 2 drops at this stage of the game is not that big. The mines are doing some friendly fire. Oh, and that's gonna do it. And the Banelings are here to help. And now you can't stay put. There's a planetary, but the Bane trade is really good actually. And now there's not enough anti-air. Because there's 10 carriers. Oh, I don't know how many carriers. There's like 15 carriers now.
This will be it. I mean,
Yeah, how are you gonna stop this Golden Armada? It's prevailing, and the Zerg is now coming in to help too. At this point,
Care will, eke out a victory here.
yeah, this is crazy. The Zerg really never got up to 100 supply in this game, right? But
Right.
you know, he's just really the chaotic Zerg that just kind of causes problems here and there. While the Protoss is the giant. He's like Atlas, carrying the load.
GG is called.
And hey, the prediction is right. Curtis and Hare 2-1. But look, the DTs are coming now. He has no scan. He's just dead.
On the other games where Sir Maligan didn't go DTs, I think it would have fared better.
Oh, he's
But
dead. Look. I think he knows. He's like, oh no. He has no scans for a while. He has to dance for a while here.
Sir Maligan's just like, I'm just gonna kill your units here.
I think this is gonna end. He's already broke. He has nothing to shoot at. He can't see what he's shooting at. His scan is not showing up for a while. DTs are trying to get in. They're gonna get it. Oh, can't even repair
He
it.
doesn't have enough army anyway.
He still didn't make a Raven. He could have made a Raven. Now he finally does. But he has nothing to kill these DTs with. Oh, he has a Banshee. But he's not gonna kill it with one scan. Without losing all these probes anyway. Look at that, he's just gonna run.
Away anyway, so no.
Oh no. Back in and he's out of position. He's miscontrolling
Unfortunately,
this.
The series is gonna end with the
Yeah.
DT shenanigans.
There it is, guys. Anticlimactic 5.5-minute game. To the this is the Maligant special. Dark Templars for the win. Keep you busy, not make Dark Templars for the first 2 games. And he
Well,
makes it on this one.
Yeah, the fact that we should be being cheesy. So he said, I'll just wait until game 3 to use it because yeah, even makes an Archon in one of them.
Yeah.
Actually, you could just make both of them Archons.
7 workers here.
Yeah, I think that's it. There's
It's
Stalkers.
it. There's just not possible. Maligant knows how to finish games like this. And he's not the type to sit back. He will bust you. You know, he's not gonna like let you come back. In fact, he's aggressive to a fault. So that will help him out in this game for sure to finish this and not let us wait.
Even this Archon is doing a lot of work. GG ends with a DT. Alright, the drops inbound.
Inbound.
Here.
We got Stim Marines. Don't get out of there.
These are +1 Stim Marines, man.
Yeah, get out of there. Pull out first. Wait for your troops.
He's losing a lot of probes here.
Ah,
There's a control point here. He's gonna
whoa,
boost
he pulled
out.
out.
with the first set.
Nice.
He's gonna boost out with the second set, and
Oh!
times. All right.
Does he have blink? Oh no, he doesn't have. But oh my gosh, look at that force.
Yeah, you need it. You need AOE here. So
Yeah.
after shots here, we probably can turn the tide.
Oh no! Don't. That's a lot of marauders.
Yeah,
Oh
these
my gosh.
waters are-
This is good. Yeah, take that third. Let criminal back out. No, take the third. Oh, he doesn't know. Does he know there's a third? He knows there's a third there. There, good. That should buy him time. Go,
Alright,
go,
just
go.
cross back criminals entire
Yeah,
army.
make some damage and then recall.
But you know what? This is a one-way
Oh,
ticket
man.
for this army, though.
Yeah.
I don't think they're gonna be able to come back here. And he already used this recall, so look how fast they
Oh, he
go.
did. Oh my gosh, those stim marines and marauders are just insane.
I think he just got out there.
He's gonna die. He's gonna get disabled.
Well, I don't know if he can kill it right away because one
Oh, there's 3 Vikings.
Vikings never
Yeah, there's Vikings, so it's gonna get disabled. It can't blink. Not blink, but teleport.
He... There it is.
There it is.
He timed it
Right.
perfectly. He knew.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, let me just make you think you can blink, and then
he can fool that.
Is he making that into a fortress?
That's a
Oh,
yeah,
it
he
is.
is. He
Yes.
is.
Oh,
He just
he's
needs to hold this. Ah!
right now.
Alright, the tank was only able to shoot one salvo. Oh man, and he lost his battle cruiser.
And
I think this is it.
The quickest game of the night. Been a
Yeah.
long night.
Yeah, I mean,
This
it's,
Oh, man.
look at the resources lost. 3,000
Yeah.
plus versus 800, 900 now, right? So It's
GG.
it's almost a perfect game for Mr. Ghost Chant here.
Yeah. Well done. Well done. Well done.
Impressive win there for Ghost Chat.
Sarah, what have you done?
Kerrigan, the die you cast. This is the last day. Your swarm darkens the sky of any planet.
Forget Minsk. Forget all of it.
When we are done here, I will return to my people and accept their judgment.
Command, we've found Kerrigan. She's holed up in a Zerg base.
I made my peace long ago.
Consider it done. For ire. Indeed.
All right, we are here for day 6. What's up, guys? Day 6. Let's talk about what kind of games we got going on tonight. I'm still waiting for our main caster, so I'll have to do that temporarily while we have other games to show. So let's talk about tonight's matchups. So tonight, 2v2. Valhurt versus those two jokers. We got the code S, Instability versus JMPZ. And then Hyper Turtle versus Gray in code A. Hey, that rhymes. So that's all we'll have tonight. But let's, before we go deeper into the matchups, let's talk about what happened last week. And so, last week, and this past Wednesday, right? So let's go through that. Let's start with last Wednesday first. So let's see. Ooh, so I say reconnecting. That's really weird. Let's refresh this page. This is available, by the way, people. We're very transparent here in FSL, so you can see all of this. But last Wednesday, I'm highlighting that here. Chien Pone versus Kitty Cat Gamer 2-1. Oh, Kitty Cat Gamer. We had a switcheroo here. So it's Miss Uber XL gets a 2-1 win over Kitty Cat Gamer. And then after that, Hyper Turtle and the Archaic. Guys, I'm sorry. I'm screwing this up. We're going backwards in time. So Mighty Ant versus Noob Lord. Mighty Ant 2-0 over Noob Lord. Pretty crazy games there. And then DLS Mizel 2-1 over Sir Maligan. And actually, we just saw the highlights last season for Season 5. Maligan 2-1 DLS Mizel. So that's the revenge game, I guess. But, Maligan looked a lot better. And so that's what happened on Wednesday. And then last week, on the Friday, Tortoise and Hare lost to Miss Diffusion 2-0. That's a big upset. But, it's early, so Tortoise and Hare was not prepared, I guess. And then it was Hyper Turtle versus the Archaic 2-1. The Archaic pulled it off. And then Neutrophil 2-0 JMPZ. JMPZ will play tonight. So he starts off by playing against the champion Neutrophil. And then he has to go with, the one in the finals, the Neutrophil beat in a nice series was Instability. So JMPZ starting off with the best players already just by luck or bad luck, right? So that's what's going on last Friday. And then the last Wednesday, let's go back in time a little bit more. We had Chien Pone and Kitty Cat Gamer, so we actually switched these two around. But then after that, it was Deepu versus Noob Lord, his debut, 2-1. Pretty good games. And then, unfortunately for Sir Malagat, he lost 2-0 against Ghost Chen. So he just didn't look sharp on that one. But tonight, our schedule, as mentioned, is this. So you guys can check that out if you go to sizestorm.com/FSL. So yeah, tonight's match is this. Let us see. We can kind of talk about other things. So yeah, we do have Sizestorm Cup coming up. So that's on the 22nd to 23rd. If you guys haven't seen that, haven't seen the announcement, I don't know. That means you're not following StarCraft news, I guess. It's on Twitter. It's on Facebook. It's on Team Liquid even, right? So it's definitely around. So let's see. Let's see if we can put that poster here. So hang tight, guys. ET is running late, by the way, so we have to kind of wait for him a little bit here. But I don't have a co-caster tonight. Let's see, it's just me. So I don't know if Sloza wants to do it. Let me know. But for now, it's just myself. And let me just talk about Sizestorm Cup real quick while we have time, right? So let me show you guys the Sizestorm Cup info right there. And there's the graphic. It's on 22nd to 23rd. It'll be at this nice esports center in Philadelphia. So you guys will really like it. If you have time, I would go there. Right? It's esports tournament. And it looks like we have the invites for the games, but I don't see them on the cameras yet. So if Mizel, you can make sure that they get on camera so we can get started. But talking about Sizestorm Cup, October 22nd to 23rd, we expect some of the biggest players in North America to be there. So if you guys have a chance and you're on the East Coast, you owe it to yourself to make that trip. And we put up $5,000 prize pool there, guys, for you. So that's pretty big. and you guys can meet some of the players. And then you will also have an FSL segment there, by the way. So we'll have a 2v2 for those that are available and are competing. You know, if you signed up as a player, you can play on the 2v2 tournament. The 2v2v2v2v2. So it's basically an FFA with 2v2s versus 2s. So it really just depends. So if you have 10 players, there's 5 teams of 2. So they will do that on that Sunday, right before the playoffs start with the professional players there. You know, Neeb has not missed the Sidestorm Cup, so hopefully he makes it again. I expect Future to be there. A lot of the East Coast players, they'll be there. So it'll be a lot of fun, guys. All right, well, let me see. I do see Gray is on and Hyper Turtle is on. So perhaps we can start with that first because it doesn't seem like we have the other players on. Let's go see if they're available and ready. I don't see them on the camera. Is Hurtin' Time on the camera? I don't see Vales on the camera either, so he needs to be on before we get started. So yeah, Science says he'll be there as well. Okay, so we need Vales on the camera before we get started. Otherwise, we'll start with Gray and Hyper Turtle because they are there. So hang tight, guys. I'm also doing admin. And our admin, if you can help me out here, that would be great. Oh, it looks like ET's here. So let's go bring ET in here. He's probably still hopping on the camera, so. Alright, so I got ET now on the Discord. So just waiting for him to hop on camera. He made it. I wasn't sure when he was gonna get here, but he's here now, so fantastic. So Vales is on. Fenrir and Chinpon, we just need them. Hurtin' Time. You know what? Looks like the 2v2 is ready to get going. So let's go bring in the players for this. Let's start with that first. It looks like the 2v2 is about to be ready. So let's bring in the players here. Whoops, I dragged them to the wrong place. Alright, ET's here. And he's setting up. He's still setting up, but his camera is working. And we do have... I'm totally gonna lose this time. I believe that's Fenrir. And let's see. Hurtin' Time? What's up, man? How you doing? Let's see. It looks like they're not. Can't hear you guys. Hurtin' Time, are you available? Testing 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, guys, we have an issue for some reason. Testing 1, 2, 3. All right, guys, we're good now.
All right.
All right, so ET's here. We got Hurtin' Time on.
Oh, is my camera on now?
We got Vales here.
Starcraft.
I do see Fenrir. So just waiting on Chinpon. I heard he had a camera problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's weird.
No
basically, just like it'll allow me to join the room and everything, and then my camera will just be completely dark. Because you see, I don't have a webcam with the computer I'm using, and
Got it.
I'm using a tablet, and I think the camera on the tablet is turned off, and I don't often use this tablet for anything
No
other than a
worries.
few
Maybe you'll win some
random
tournament
tasks.
prizes, and we can get you a camera. But ET, why don't you get started with the questions for this special 2v2?
Yes, sir. So we've got our, the two Jokers back now, and for I believe their second series. How are y'all feeling going into this? Obviously, it's a little bit stacked against you, you could
Slanted
say. But
against
how are you
us.
feeling about tonight?
One-sided. It's pretty one-sided, I have to say. Like, I haven't
Yeah.
practiced too much.
Yeah. Who made these teams, anyways? They need to work on their balancing, right?
Blame the admin.
Not really. We didn't come here with the intent to be balanced.
Yeah, we just came here to have fun.
Well, hopefully
so.
you guys will have as much fun as it looked like you were having last time around. Hurt Time and Vales. I guess it's just Hurt and Vales. Val Hurt. How are y'all feeling about tonight's match?
Yeah, we need to come up with a name, really. But we will bring the hurt, don't worry.
Perfect.
Feeling fine.
Oh, I think I figured it out. I don't think my browser app has access to my camera, even though I told it to allow it. Weird.
Perfect. Okay. Well, it sounds like we're going to have an interesting match in our hands tonight. I think we're pretty much ready to hop into game if everything's good on the production end. KJ, are we all good?
Yes, sir.
All right, players, you can go ahead and hop into your respective channels to communicate during the match, and we'll hop right
No,
on
wait,
into it.
it says camera is allowed. That's not it either.
All right, you can go ahead and hop into your chat.
Wait, I'm not using my browser. I'm using the Discord app.
Well, I think his camera is the least of his concerns.
I'm sorry,
right
guys.
now,
I'm
so
rather.
no worries. We moved them to their own channel so they can kind of get going with this. So, E.T., what do you think, man?
Well, obviously, you've got two Code S players versus two Code B players, so it's probably going to be pretty one-sided. But the two Jokers, or those two Jokers as they call themselves, I think they're mostly here to have fun. Hopefully, they can still do that and maybe show us something interesting tonight. But definitely going to have to give the advantage to Val Hurt here.
That's right. This is probably the most sure thing I've ever seen in any of the matchups you've ever seen, right?
Yeah. Probably the one I'd be the most surprised if it didn't go the way I was expecting, for sure. So we'll see how that goes, though. It looks like we are ready to hop in. Just waiting to hear from Fenrir, I think.
Yep. This is going to be the biggest upset in the history of FSL if he pulls it off. What is your biggest upset ever, man? You, as a player, who is the biggest player you've ever beaten? The best player?
I beat Vindicta when I was about 1,300 MMR below him.
Nice. What? You were Zerg, right?
Yes, Zerg and Cuddlebear. I'd say they were pretty much tied.
Nice.
I actually beat Cuddlebear for the Cheesadelphia qualifiers and then went straight into Namshar because somehow I made it that far along and died.
Very cool.
So...
Tell me about the game. Like, what do you think happened? How were you able to, overcome the 1,300?
Vindicta likes proxy raxes too much. So it worked one game and then didn't work the next game.
Nice.
Yeah, that was mainly it.
Yeah, very cool. Well, I'll talk about my upsets later, but I think we're getting ready to start here, so let's do it.
Yes, looks like we are ready to go. Very exciting.
I should probably show the map selections too.
Yes, we can pull that up. Let me make sure I've got it so I can review as well. Okay, so we've got... Our first map, of course, is Emerald City, and then Reclamation and Roscallion, but we are loading in the game. Here we go.
You are watching FSL Season 6.
All right, in the bottom right-hand side of Emerald City LE, we have our blue Terran player. He is...
Vales.
And his ally, the teal Terran player from Psystorm Gaming, it is...
Hurting Time.
And together, they are...
Well, they don't have an intro because their name is unofficial.
Val Hurt.
That's right.
And their opponents in the top left, we got the green Terran player. He is...
Fenrir.
And his ally, his brother, even, in the pink, it is...
Jim Hole.
Together, they are...
Those two jokers.
Oh, yes, yes. Not an intro either. We'll get him set up. Oh, wow. We actually have a proxy race out of Fenrir. He gets spotted.
Very smart, though. He didn't lead him to it. Like, he immediately...
Yeah, he immediately turned away. He's like, oh, no, this was a scout. I was just taking the scenic route. But that does mean that Vales might think he's completely shut this down, which means there may still be some opportunity for the proxy barracks that is still going up. I wonder if Vales was looking for that, or if he was planning on maybe doing a little proxy of his own. Does have the barracks at home. That would have timed out pretty cleanly to do like a proxy factory or something if he'd kept going across the map. Hard to tell. No expansions down just yet, although it looks like maybe nope, just going for a scout, which is actually a proxy for a Stargate. Oh, there we go. 3 barracks. Certain time. We'll get the full scout. No second pylon, I don't think, in the main for Chienpon, so can be an indicator of a proxy. Oh, no, second and third. He'll throw up a Nexus next to those in a few seconds just to really throw his opponents off. It's funny. The panic throwing down of supply, I feel like, looks way less goofy on Zerg, so you can get away with a lot more. Because you just fire up like 8 overlords instead of just adding like 12 buildings to your base at random, you know? I feel like you can get away, and everyone's just like, oh, it's a laser overlords. That's like a high-level move. Every other race, it's like, oh my gosh, they're just building like 13 pylons in a circle. Reaper of Vales does come in and is chasing around those SCVs, or the SCVs are chasing him around as he just continually shoots at them. And indeed, we do have a proxy Stargate with 3 barracks, and Chienpon, focusing on the real problem in life, is shooting the bunker with nothing in it. Vales, because it's down at the bottom of the high ground, cannot actually see up to shoot, so we'll have to bounce in and out just as he is doing. But the Stalker should be able to regenerate shields quickly enough, and we'll even see a cheeky salvage there. Oh crud, says Fenrir. Cloaked Banshee on the way for Hurtin' Time, as those 2 jokers continuing to power up. Now, Hurtin' Time and Vales should have known. Oh, and actually, they're going to go scout the proxy. Very nice out of Vales. I was going to say, should know that there's something weird going on, because whenever the SCV scout came in for Hurtin' Time, there were no barracks in the main base. So, somewhat of a giveaway that something funky is going on. Now, Reapers do trade well against Marines until they have Stim Pack. Once they have Stim Pack, Marines can kind of chase the Reapers down a little bit, but also still don't regenerate health like those Reapers do, and the Reapers can go across the map and counterattack. 1 Stalker is not going to be enough. Maybe with the probe pole, we'll be able to push away those Reapers. But here they're coming in. They're looking to get some damage done. Void right into the main base of Vales as well, who's been producing almost purely Reapers. Shuts down the turret. Does Chienpon. Very well done. Would have liked to see an overcharge get turned on here, but maybe be able to make it away from that Cyclone. There's no scan on the command center, but not the best pathing to get out of there as quickly as possible. Still makes it out with half HP, so not too bad. I think an overcharge might have been able to kill that turret there, but unfortunately the Reapers are just murdering everything for Fenrir, who is coming in, trying to get something done. Good target fire on the SCVs there. Not quite able to get it done, and with a Cloaked Banshee out now, I think this attack is fully repelled by Hurtin' Time and Vales. Chienpon going to continue trying with the Void Rays that he's managed to accrue here. I was going to say, did the Cyclone go down? It did not, but now it's being chased down. Oh, but they're too slow because of the overcharge there on the Void Rays. The prismatic alignment does slow down their movement speed so much that they were not able to chase down the Cyclone there. It's kind of a difficult judgment call to make against Cyclones with Void Rays of whether or not you need to turn off that prismatic alignment, because on the one hand, it does increase the damage heavily that you deal, but on the other hand, you can actually, once you get a lock-on with a Void Ray on a Cyclone, I'm pretty sure you can chase it to all of eternity. It's not fast enough to escape the lock-on if you're not prismatically aligned and moving at full speed. Well, says Fenrir, as all of their workers are pretty much gone, just the ones left at the proxy remain. Trying to get something done, but now there's a tank on the high ground as well. Vikings out, and all the forces will fall for those two jokers down to 9 and 4 supply. GG will be called, and that is game 1 in the books.
Curtain time.
Okay, so we'll get the next lobby done up, and we'll be able to head into game number 2, which I believe we said was going to be Reclamation. Yes, Reclamation LE here. Is a base that has split mains, so a little bit more exposed to those aggressions that we saw in the previous game, potentially. But we'll see what they manage to do. All right, looks like we are just making sure our players are ready, and we'll head into the second and potentially final game of the night. But of course, the excitement does not end there. Assuming the schedule is not lying to me, we'll have Hyper Turtle versus Gray in the Code A, and Instability versus JMPZ following that up. As we are now loading into game on Reclamation LE. In the top left-hand side of Reclamation LE, we have the pink Protoss player. He is and his ally, the green Terran player. He is
Fenrir.
Together, they are
Those two jokers.
I keep forgetting. And their opponents in the bottom right-hand side of the map, the blue Terran player. He is
Veils.
And his ally, the teal Terran player. He is
Curtain time.
And together they are Valhurt. Now, we do have similarly looking builds coming out of those two jokers this time around, and another set of proxy barracks coming down. Interesting that both Veils and Hurtentime are scouting. Those diamond mechanics binding them and forcing them to both scout here. Definitely not too bad to get 2 eyes or 2 pass-throughs, especially against players who are willing to throw in these all-out aggressive builds. Like Fenrir and Qian Pone are so willing to do. I feel like they should be able to pretty easily clean up their builds from where they're at currently as well if they put some extra time in. Practice the 4 racks religiously, you know. You can wind up doing some pretty cool things with that, like Top Gun on the American ladder comes to mind. Likes to go proxy 4 racks Reaper against Terran, and that's a pretty good success rate doing it against relatively high-level players, but we do have an instant scout on the 3 barracks from Fenrir. And the problem with this sort of proxy build is that he's relying on Stim, and Stim is far, far too slow of an upgrade to be waiting on with this sort of aggression, especially when you're proxying the barracks, which will now float home, only putting him ever so slightly behind the competition in terms of his production and expansion. Still, get Scout. I think that's pretty much the only thing left to do, so better to do that than to continue an attack that has basically already failed, as it was fully scouted by the opposition. Cancels on the barracks for Hurtin Time, or the bunker for Hurtin Time. As Qian Pone, will he continue to proxy? For the moment, it looks like he's just going to continue to float 3 Nexuses worth of minerals. Vale's double checking to make sure that Fenrir didn't do the double back on him. And indeed, he did not. But there's not a whole lot at home to defend for those 2 Jokers. As I think once their push was exposed, they're somewhat at a loss for what to do from here. I like the patrolling SCVs to catch sight of the Reapers as early as possible. Able to distract just a little bit. Stalker now on the way. Would have been better if those were Marines, but what can you do? And with that, I mean, 2 Reapers should be able to pretty much clear out this whole mineral line if well microed. And well microed they are so far. A couple of grenades getting a lot of damage done, and the wall off is blocking Qian Pone from coming in to help defend. Fenrir does lower it, but so many SCVs on such low hit points already. He's down to only 8 workers against almost 30 from both of his opponents. And with that, it looks like Vales will be able to make it out with both Reapers as well. Just going to go over to the other base and start firing away over there as well, potentially. No, we'll back off instead. But very happy, I would say, with an 8-kill Reaper and a 4-kill Reaper. Every single one of those being Fenrir's poor, innocent little workers.
I gotta say, ET, this reminds me of those challenges against the pros. Remember?
Right,
like
yeah,
Dion,
actually.
Dion versus Joes, regular Joes, and even the dark one.
Yes. We had, I think Jaquette was one of the main people that did that, Jaquette of Sidestorm Gaming. The pros versus Joes he did with Winter StarCraft, I think. I remember Special did one against, I think it was 2 Diamond players he managed to beat. Beastie Cutie, obviously, I think was the real pioneer, kind of just doing it on his own, beating all the way up to, I think he beat 2 Masters players solo. So, pretty crazy stuff there. Not enough challenge content in StarCraft, but that's actually been improving of late. As goodness gracious, that's a lot of shield batteries. I guess he realized he has 2,000 minerals and decided he needs to spend it somehow. Don't know how much those shield batteries are going to be able to accomplish in the middle of the map, but maybe they'll wind up coming into play here. As Hurtin Time and Vales definitely keeping their money down pretty well. Hurtin Time floating a little bit in minerals, but really just a little bit thrown off by the potential for that aggression. We see, you know, a lot of the I just don't want to die units, tanks, cyclones, turrets, things like that. A lot of gas-intensive units, which mean you generally wind up floating quite a bit in minerals. As you're just prioritizing other things. Battlecruiser does come in, and I hate to break it to you, but 2 Stalkers is not enough to beat a Battlecruiser. Much less with 2 Reapers sitting underneath it. A lot of Marines coming over, but at this point it's 11 workers and 10 workers for Qian Pone and Fenrir. It's going to drop even lower here, as the BC can also kite these Marines almost infinitely, which means they may even be able to just beat this number of Marines. Indeed, without upgrades, I think we'll be able to at least take down the Marines. Might need to run away from the Stalkers down the line, but still quite a lot of valuable damage getting done here. Almost does lose the Battlecruiser, but will make it a way to be repaired by the Reaper, so very nicely done out of Vales, as Reapers also regenerating HP, which means the Stalker will only get 1 before falling. And Qian Pone dead in the water a little bit here. Fenrir trying to get up a second base, but I fear it's slightly too little, slightly too late. As we have 3rd and 4th base going down for Vales, and the main base of Qian Pone is under duress. More Marines going to come over, but now that that Battlecruiser is mostly repaired up, I don't think they're going to be able to accomplish too much. There is a Void Ray here, but not overcharging it right away. Means a lot of lost DPS there. Vale's being careful because he's expecting, I think, that overcharge any moment will warp out. And now Hurtin Time's Siege Tanks and Cyclones coming over to finish the job. And potentially clean up this game. So we've got 3rd bases down for both of the Terrans in the bottom right. But props to the 2 Jokers, you know, trying their best despite the odds. Do have 3 Void Rays, which is enough to kill a Cyclone. although they're not following. There we go. We'll chase down that one Cyclone, but too much damage done on the flip side of things. And even finding the extra buildings of Chien-Pon does Veils, but hey, those shield batteries in the middle of the map, what? How dare I question Chien-Pon's brilliance, as he will be able to clean up a battlecruiser and some siege tanks thanks to those shield batteries. Extra healing. One battlecruiser does warp away, and I mean, Veils and Hurt in Time still in a very good position. 3 Void Rays I don't think will be able to turn the tides of this game, especially with Thors and turrets out. But a solid attempt for sure. 0 workers now out for Chien-Pon. 1,400 minerals, so, you know, 28 basically potential probes, but 0 realized probes, unfortunately, here. And you're looking to maybe come in on the other side while Chien-Pon's keeping him busy in the right side, but those Marines kind of just sitting still for the moment. May catch some rallying SCVs, but not much to be done here. We're going to have a bit of a fantasy GG out of those 2 Jokers, but that's A-okay. Imagine going to do what they can with these Void Rays. Do kill a Thor as well, and potentially even going to get that 3rd base of Hurt in Time. And cancels or snipes the SCV that was building the base there for Veils, which means it'll take even longer to build that command center. Pretty funny here, getting a lot of work done. Just imagine if they had been macroing behind this. Unfortunately, floating lots of money are both of the 2 Jokers, and not anything. Literally 0 on the production tab for either player at the moment. And there we go. We see 1 Marauder. Don't know if that'll be enough to turn the tides of war, though. And without additional Void Ray production, eventually the battle cruisers and Vikings will outscale the Void Rays. Chien-Pon going to come down to the bottom left, do what he can, but I think with these battle cruisers coming over with the Cyclone underneath as well. Yo Mama Tomato Cannon on the way. Will likely prove to be too much here. 1 Void Ray does go down. It cancels the overcharge, so we'll make it away with 2 other Void Rays, so that's nice. But down to only 8 supply as Chien-Pon. I wonder if we'll see him start pro production if he loses these 2 Void Rays. Hurt in Time's going to come over and take care of the rest of the production of Chien-Pon. Fenrir making some Marauders, making a few Marines, but definitely far down in supply. Gonna be struggling here. As that's a sizable clump of Marines, you know. They do have stim packs, they do have combat shields, you know. He's kept up the production, the upgrades. He's working on getting +1/+1. So, definitely not too bad out of Fenrir here, but it's 129 supply for each of the Terrans in the bottom right versus just under 70 for Fenrir and 2 Void Rays for Chien-Pon. So, I think we'll see the Killing Blow come out soon. EMP's available for the shields on those Void Rays as well. And definitely not looking too bright of a future for the 2 Jokers in this game, but a fun series overall. Those Void Rays getting a shocking amount of value, I think. As funnily enough, Fenrir has they've actually only lost about as many resources as the other team. It's not too far off. Hurt in Time and Veils being extremely careful about moving out here. Do not want to throw this game away, it would seem. They're only up about 200 supply, so you've got to be...
Yeah, I got to jump in here at AT. I think, you know, while has Hurt in Time and Veils are pretty good in relative to these 2, I don't think they have a good read of the game where they can just aim a long time ago.
Yeah, I've definitely had that feeling every now and then, like in the weekly ESL Cups, where you get matched up against someone who's quote-unquote like bronze. And you're never sure, because there are some people, like I remember the Riddler used to always play on an account that was ranked bronze, and then he'd just play unranked, and he's like 6k MMR, and you're like, is this person I'm playing in the weekly cup actually bronze? And so you're like, I feel like I'm winning, but I really don't want to like get knocked out of the weekly cup by someone, you know, pretending to be lower ranked than they are. Maybe it's a little bit of that here, but I think we're finally going to see the move out. It's basically been about 5 minutes of waiting for this massive Terran army Two move across the map, and they're nuking. Oh my goodness. Well, has to cancel the nuke, so there's that. Slow pushing with tanks. Another nuke gonna come down.
Yeah, you know what I think? This is not one of those things where you're on ladder. Let's say you're Masters and you play someone that's Platinum even. When you think you've had the game to kill, you just go kill. Like, you don't kind of like play around too much. So this, because it's being broadcasted, I think they're having fun.
Yeah, I think so. A little bit there with the nukes and stuff. That definitely seems to indicate that.
Yep.
You do see a GG there in a 13-minute game to close out the series. A good try out of the two Jokers for sure. All right, we'll go ahead and pull the players back into the chat here.
We gotta
Talk to
ask
them a
some
little bit about that series.
as interesting questions as the interesting series that was.
I killed 13 units, man. That's horrible.
Well, they were
wait,
very,
I'm
very
sorry.
important units. Key units, one could say. So, those two Jokers obviously not quite able to take it there, but some good attempts at proxies. Just getting scouted a lot, wasn't it? It's pretty hard to pull off a cheese whenever they see it coming, eh?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of. I didn't even mean to play Protoss that game. I meant to play Stern, I just forgot.
Well, that happens to the best of us. I think Rainer's been doing that a lot lately, so we've all been there. Well, it was definitely a solid try overall, and we look forward to seeing the rest of your games throughout the season. It looks like y'all have a lot of fun, and I think that's what this whole tournament's all about, so it's good to see it. We'll talk a little bit to our winners about that. It seemed like in the last game you were styling a little bit there towards the end. Were you pretty confident throughout the series as you're going through the games that you had it pretty much in the bag?
We just didn't want to get proxied or cheesed, so we were looking for proxies and cannons and things like that early. So that's how we found what they were doing.
Right, yeah.
That's
yeah, I was saying to KJ, you were making all the please don't let me die units, so like 4 tanks and like 2 cyclones and 3 turrets. It's like not a composition you typically see, but you want to be real careful there. So
like they were desperate to win, but they weren't
very, very good job overall, and we look forward to seeing the rest of your play throughout the tournament. Obviously, there'll be some more difficult matches and things like that. So it'll be cool to see what you guys have to bring out there. And congratulations on the win today. We will see y'all in the future.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Good games.
Yep.
Sneaky.
All right, that's
All
we don't have a whole lot of verbal content, but it looks like we had enough action there to last several fantasy GG games, right?
Yeah, I would say a couple there. All right, y'all can go ahead and leave the voice. We'll get our next players in here.
Yep.
Thanks very much for
See you
joining
guys.
in.
Congrats. See you guys later.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
All right. Well, our next match. Let's show that ET. I think you have an opinion on this next match. I think, right?
Yeah, so it looks like we're gonna have Gray versus Hyper Turtle.
Yep.
I'm not sure I've caught any of Gray's games. Are
This is
they? I
debut.
think they're a new player this season. Okay.
This is
I was
his
gonna
debut.
say.
Let's bring him in. Let's talk to him.
Yeah, let's see what they have to say. It's always cool to see a new face in the scene here. Is we've got Gray and Hyper Turtle joining us now. Gray's debut appearance here. Now, Gray, I see you're in clan, I think it's Anito as well. Are you a bring along from DLS Mazel, or how did you wind up hearing about and joining the FSL?
So, I played StarCraft for like about a year or so during pandemic, so I don't have anything to play. So I tried playing StarCraft, and then I just I had the chance to join Mizel with his clan, and then from there I met a lot of people, and it's fun. So it's actually good to have new friends while you're playing new games. So yeah, it's exciting.
So,
Awesome.
Gray, I got a question for you. Describe yourself as an SC2 player. What's your style? All that, right? Tell us.
One word, I think. B2GM. Because I'm a
Bronze to
newbie,
GM.
so
Got it. Got it.
I tried learning StarCraft from YouTubers that does like um B2GM videos of guides of how
Yeah, like
you.
Vibe, right? Vibe is
Yeah,
one
like
of them.
Vibe. Vibe's one of them. Vibe's one of my favorite, and then there's Winter as well.
Yep.
Um, and Pig. Yeah. So
Nice.
those guys.
All right.
I'd
Well,
say
welcome
those
to
are
FSL, man.
the trifecta
Thank
of
you. Thanks for
improvement.
having me. Yeah, thank you.
Nice. All right. So hashtag B2GM. That's his one word to describe
Yeah.
himself.
Yeah.
By the way. So, well, welcome here. We're looking forward for your debut. We didn't catch what
Yeah.
race you were, but it looks like you're Zerg from our lobby. So.
Yeah, I am.
All right. Great.
Perfect. All right, and Hyper Turtle, the man on the other side of the debut. How do you feel? You're going up against someone that you don't really have any background on. How are you feeling about today's match?
I don't really know what to expect. I checked his profile, and it looks like he's a decent amount of MMR above me, so I'm gonna try to bring out a few surprises. Maneuver. All of
Yeah,
that.
he looks like it's pretty high MMR, but we'll see. Because we saw that in Criminal, it's super rusty, and then towards the end of the season, he's Code S level. So we'll find out what his true skill is, right?
See what he brings out. Indeed. All right. Well, I think we've got the opinions from the players. I think it'll be a very cool match to see. It's always fun to have new faces, and that's what this is all about. So I think we're ready to hop into the series. KJ, did you have any final questions or comments?
Nope.
All right. We'll go ahead and mute and deafen the players. Or I guess you guys can actually just hop off to a different channel, and then we'll drag you back in when the time comes. There they go. And yeah, now that we have the other cameras, we don't have to have them in here. We get some privacy, so we're ready to go. We'll just check and make sure they're ready to start the lobby. We can go ahead and pull up while I'm checking on that. The map picks we've got. We're starting off with Stargazers. A fun map. It's got some interesting features on it for sure. And then I believe, yeah, Moon Dance and Tropical Sacrifice. I always have that urge to say, some of the new maps, and then I remember that all the maps are new maps, which is not typically how it is. So I have to catch myself there. Are new maps, but there wasn't really much of an option to not do that. So looks like we are ready to go. So we'll be loading in shortly. We have Stargazers. An interesting map. You've got the mains both on the top, so you have a pretty quick access to the enemy's bases from the airspace. And then Moon Dance and Tropical Sacrifice, I'd say two pretty macro-focused maps. So we'll see how this goes. I'd say if he's done his research, Gray also has the advantage of preparation. If he's maybe watched some of Hyper Turtle's play in the past, might have a little bit of an idea of what he's going into. Hyper Turtle, though, he's got he's got an MMR number, and that's about all he's got to work with. So we'll see how it goes. Alrighty, in the top right-hand side of Stargazers LE, we have the Orange Zerg player. He is Gray. And his opponent in the top left-hand side in the purple, he is
Hyper Turtle.
All right. So we're back into the 1v1 sphere. This is going to be a Zerg versus Protoss here. So we'll see. It's very Gray said he's a bronze to GM player, which means you're going to see a lot of pretty standard macro plays generally, from what I'm familiar with. Obviously, the bronze to GM series, by the time that was around, I was already kind of just riffing my own builds and stuff a little bit. So I haven't fully watched them, but I've seen bits here and there. And a lot of it's just, probes and pylons kind of stuff from the Day 9 days. So should see some pretty straight up macro out of him here. Definitely had some nice MMR though. Diamond 3, which means could be pretty dominant in the Code A here. And may wind up seeing himself in the Code S next season. Or even in the playoffs, making it all the way up to the Code S. Hyper Turtle Scout is coming in. We've got the hatch gas pool completely standard here. Hyper Turtle's actually heavily delaying his base here, opting for... Is that a full wall? I think it's maybe not. There might be a gap on the bottom. Going double gate Cybercore. Could maybe take a quick third base in that pocket with that. Go for some sort of Stargate play as well. So an interesting strategy there. Be curious to see how that shapes out throughout the game. Now, a lot of times you don't wind up wanting to take the pocket base on this map, as Zerg in particular, because it's so close to the enemy by airspace that Mass Void Ray or just drops and Warp Prisms and things like that are all the harder to deal with because they're just able to get in so quickly to your bases. So you'll oftentimes see them taking bases out on the map a little bit more, especially expanding straight down in a line just to expand as far away from the Protoss as possible. Give yourself as much space as you can. So we do have that natural base coming down now. Stalker and Adept on the way for Hyper Turtle. And should be able to shut down that Overlord here as it's flying up into the main base. But the Stalker wants to be careful, it looks like. No, it will go up now that the Adept's going to be out. Interesting. Double gate, no tech yet. Zergling speed is on the way for Gray. As Hyper Turtle will be able to hunt that Overlord down. Got nowhere to run. Just going to look around and see if he can spot the tech in the meantime. Shield battery coming down for Hyper Turtle, so playing it pretty carefully, pretty conservative here, I would say, as Hyper Turtle going for the second gateway very, very quickly to get out extra units and a shield battery as well. Stargate now on the way too. Just a few Zerglings looking for a scout, getting some information. Nothing super high pressure coming in here for Gray. Zergling speed well over halfway done. That Stargate's going to be finishing up soon. We actually see a Sentry on the way as well. Wonder if Hyper Turtle maybe saw a match history where he was doing Baneling busts or something like that. This really feels like you're expecting to get Ling all-in or Baneling busted, but we're not seeing that out of Gray just yet. He's got a third base. He is making some extra Zerglings, but I think that's mainly because you see a lot of units coming out for the Protoss. Void Ray now on the way for Hyper Turtle, and a Twilight Council to follow it up as well. That is a lot of Lings on the way for Gray, so perhaps he is going to try and bust Hyper Turtle. If he does, then I'm not going to have much success with it, but 20 Lings as well can just be a I don't want you to take a third base anytime soon force. And if Hyper Turtle takes a whole lot of defenses and everything like that, and Gray just kind of uses these Lings to zone, then, you know, winds up being pretty even, if not an advantage for Gray here. Potentially an overreaction out of Hyper Turtle. Does send out the Hallucination second Void Ray coming out as well. So we have a Roach Warren, an Evo Chamber, and a Lair on the way for Gray. Gonna see some additional gateways trapping this probe in a corner. As third base is now finished up. More and more queens on the way, starting to move that creep spread out as well. And some good mechanics out of Gray thus far, gotta say. Looking good. +1 air on the way for Hyper Turtle. He's continuing to make more and more Void Rays, able to kill that Overlord that's coming to the main base for a scout. Gray does get to see both Void Rays, so he knows there's more than one. I'd like to see him maybe pull those Void Rays out of his main base back into a corner that's a little more protected, but should be okay overall. Charge now on the way as well, interestingly enough. So it's double Stargate, 4 Gateway Charge. I remember this used to be like a little flavor of the month build. You'd go like, I think for a lot of Phoenix was the typical build. You'd make it look like you were doing 2 Stargate Phoenix, and then you'd just go Mass Zealot and just like lift up the Roaches or Queens or even Banelings. So there was nothing to deal with the Charge Zealots, because Zerglings aren't really very good against that. And that's the only thing that the Phoenixes couldn't lift with Reckless Abandon. So Gray struggling a little bit, needs to be able to just split those queens up into 2 different groups. But maybe something he hasn't practiced as much yet. Obviously, like you said, a little bit of a new player, and those kinds of things are something you kind of just build a knowledge of over time. You know, 3 queens in the high ground, 3 queens in the low ground would be enough to defend against 2 Void Rays, but a lot of times you've gotten into that mindset of these queens go on 5, and they all go where they all go. It looks like we have that a little bit here for Gray, but hasn't wound up punishing him too much at all. A little bit more damage going down on Hyper Turtle's Void Rays, but we'll recall them. More Void Rays on the way. Hydralisk's already on the way for Gray. Just have a nice pack of Zerglings, and Ling Hydra can be a good way to deal with Zealot Void Ray as well. Especially with some queens to anchor, provide a lot more HP buffer, especially with some transfuses if we do see those go off. No third base on the way just yet for Hyper Turtle. He's been mining out that back side to be able to plant it down. Just now finished up, so there we go. This is on the way. 4th base on the way for Gray, though, and nearly completed at 55 drones. We do have Hydra speed and Roach speed and +1 range on the way. Carrier is now on the way, though, for Hyper Turtle. Trying to tech up quickly into that Sky Toss setup, actually, so no aggression coming out of his way. A big Hydra Ling Queen attack can definitely hit a composition like this and do a lot of damage if Gray chooses to do that, but I think the Hydras might be more defensively intended. So probably won't see any big aggressive attacks out of him just yet if I'd have to guess. And if Hyper Turtle can get up to 5 or 6 carriers, carriers start doing very well, especially if they've got +2 or more attack upgrades against Hydralisks, as Hydralisks are pretty squishy units. If you see Hydralisk compositions against carriers, they pretty much always require some infestors. Provide that... Whoa, 11 drones going down from an Oracle is definitely a big mistake there for Gray, not having the Spore Crawler in the right position. That's definitely very unfortunate. That's a lot of kills at this point in the game even. But, as I was saying, you need that shroud over your units, preventing the carriers from doing any real damage. And Gray's looking like he's moving out now, but I'm not sure that's enough Hydralisk. It's 2 carriers, 5 Void Rays. There's only 1 shield battery. It's only 19 Hydralisk. They do have +1, though. So even on upgrades with those carriers. Oh, and the Void Rays getting F2'd back will fly over the Hydralisks, which means he will pretty much just lose these 3 Void Rays for free here. Gray focuses them down. Instead, he's fighting into the units that are being battery overcharged, which is not what you want. And indeed, the Turtle Carrier strikes again. A build that strikes fear into the hearts of every Zerg player. I think we've even seen, like, Rogue lose to, I think it was a Stats who did a 2-base carrier rush build. It's definitely dangerous if you don't hit well and fight well. You can wind up just dying to it because you wind up not doing enough damage for the amount of committal you do with your units. Oh, if there had been transfuses on these queens, I think it would have had enough to maybe push this back, and honestly, he still would. He's losing so many queens for free. Very unfortunate. Not knowing the value of transfuse yet. Again, a newer player is Gray, so he's not quite used to literally just hit T and click as fast as you possibly can in a fight and call yourself a micro god, as most of us Zerg players do. But still traded okay. Not dead, which is very nice. Is making a Spire. And as Hyper Turtle has not gone into High Templar and Storm just yet, Mass Corruptor would absolutely annihilate the army that Hyper Turtle is going for, with just some Zergling support on the ground. 72 workers is a nice count, going up to a 5th and a 6th base is Gray here. And has some decent creep spread, so definitely some solid fundamentals coming out of Gray thus far. You can definitely see he's a little bit of a newer player, hasn't gotten used to some of the ideas, like taking the Watchtower here with the Zerglings. You should pretty much always have a Zergling on that Watchtower if you can.
So ET, one thing I did notice, right, because we saw, like, how come he's in Code A and he has a diamond border, but it looks like, you know, he seems to be borderline diamond, right? He did register at a 3000 MMR, so I think he's on the up. You know, he's learning. He's literally going bronze to diamond right now.
Right, yeah, 500 MMR since the sign up. Obviously, you know, he could have signed up several months ago at this point, so that's a lot of time to improve. So yeah, as jumped probably a division from like Plat 1 to Diamond 3 or
Yeah.
something like that, or maybe from
Yep.
Plat 2 to Diamond 3. So that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. And, yeah, we're seeing that. He's getting the fundamentals and the things that. It's funny. It's the things that they teach you in Bronze to GM. I'm pretty sure at this point is basically just don't worry about micro. Just make as many units as you can and A move.
That's true.
And so we haven't seen the transfuses and things like that, but a lot of times those guides tell you not to focus on that until you're into those masters and grandmaster ranges, because
Yeah.
just making more stuff is usually all you need to do to win.
That's true, and
up
one
until
thing I
then.
noticed is I think he does. I thought it'd be like a pretty big mismatch given the MMR, but I think the MMR is misleading in this case.
Yeah, Hyper Turtle's definitely playing a style that will punish that just make a ton of units in A move style. Carrier with, I think he is even adding on Storm. Looked like he has High Templar, but he doesn't have Storm, and he's not researching it.
Oh,
If he gets Storm, then he'll have a very good composition against the just A move and win comp. But he's definitely playing the right composition to punish that style of play. I've even lost to this when I was in GM. Every now and then you just like, oh my gosh, a carrier player, and you just pull everything and try to kill them before they can get it up. You barely don't kill them, and then suddenly you're against 200 supply of carriers and Storm, and you're like, well, I don't have any infrastructure, I don't have any upgrades because I went all in, and that's it. Yeah, so we may see that here. It's going to be interesting to see. I mean, he's still up in supply, but against carriers, just being up in supply doesn't tell you everything. I do like taking the gold base pretty quickly here out of Gray. He's definitely got the just expand whenever you have money to expand ideas in play here, which is always very good to see. I think that's the biggest hallmark of improvement, is just make more bases. Fortunately, he's sending his Corruptors down, but not his Hydralisks.
Yeah.
Perhaps another newer player thing, or maybe he thought the carriers would be following along behind. Interesting.
Carriers.
Yeah.
You gotta be careful.
Yeah, they're kind of cross, but Hyper Turtle's only bringing 5 of his 8 carriers. 3 of them are just sitting at his 4th base. I guess kind of splitting up so that he's still defended there, but that means he will lose probably 2 carriers, because I don't think Gray necessarily knows about the rest of them over there. If he knew about those 3 carriers would be dead because they weren't recalled.
Yeah.
Even now, I think he has enough Corruptors that he could just go in and kill all those carriers. Granted, he's got +1 air armor, but +3 on the way. Poor Hyper Turtle definitely does help. The big thing is, and Nathanius would tell you this, Corruptors have 2 base armor, and carriers attack twice, which means for every attack, even with no armor upgrades, they're denying 4 damage. But yeah, definitely killing carriers quite quickly. You need Storm here, basically. It's kind of a free win as Zerg if you make Corruptors against carriers, even if they have a few Void Rays. Corruptors are just so good against carriers. It's pretty crazy. The ground army's good for Hyper Turtle, but I mean, Gray can pretty much just trade out his Corruptors against the carriers here. But he's got a shift click. Good micro overall, not bad at all.
No Storm.
I think he probably should have run away after the first couple. The overall idea, yeah, he's finally researching it. He didn't actually, he didn't research it. So he's got 12 storms available, but doesn't have the research for it, unfortunately.
Yeah.
The big thing you have to learn about microing Corruptors, and I know this because I tried to teach the blind leading the deaf about this with Corruptors, because they wound up playing the Sky Toss army that was War Bunnies and Hyper Turtle last season, and so we had like last minute trying to how to beat Sky Toss edition. With carriers versus Corruptors, you kind of want to go in and kill maybe 1 or 2 carriers and then pull back, because it takes time for the carriers to get all their interceptors out, but once they do, they're going to start doing really well. So you go in, you snipe a carrier or 2, and then you pull away by the time they're actually realizing their full damage, and then you just go back in, because they'll, the interceptors will reload back into the carriers, and you go back in, and you pull out, and you go back in. Eventually, you can add Vipers to that mix to sort of force carriers out of the pack, especially whenever they're rallying between bases and things like that. But that's all pretty high-level stuff. He's doing fairly well, I'd say, for a new player. Against carriers are probably the most difficult thing to kind of wrap your brain around dealing with, especially whenever you have other elements to worry about. Now there's Archons on the ground, splashing your Corruptors, so it's not enough to just sit there amongst the carriers, because you'll just get annihilated by splash damage. Still, though, I think Hyper Turtle may have found the answer, at least in Game 1. What I will say is this is the kind of thing where it felt like it took Gray a little bit of time to sort of figure out what to do, how to handle the composition. Oh, no. Not microing it quite well enough, and indeed it loses a lot of Corruptors there. Yeah, it might be that in the next game he's a little bit more mentally prepared for this and the strategy doesn't work twice. So if Hyper Turtle goes for the exact same thing, I could definitely see him wind up dying to the push of Gray. Fortunately, though, tried to morph the lurkers on the other side of the map, which meant they got caught out. If there were lurkers on the ground here, I think he could hold. As it is, there's just nothing to deal with the ground army. And we are going to see Hyper Turtle, I think, with a 50 supply lead right now. I think we'll be able to push through. Going into the 4th base now. Does not grade back down to 4 bases, as he did have that 5th up on the top. But 31 workers falling and just continuing to push through. And I think if Grade had another minute or two, would have been able to do something. But morphing his Hydras into lurkers on the other side of the map, getting caught was death sentence there, unfortunately. GG.
Hyper Turtle.
So yeah, definitely a solid try out of Gray there. You can see a little bit of a APM disparity there. The classic Skytoss versus Zerg. Zerg with 4 times the APM and 10 times the struggle. Now, very well done out of Hyper Turtle. I think a well-selected strategy. I'd say that's probably the strat that takes the most kind of learning curve to deal with. Except maybe cannon rushing. But cannon rushing also, I think, has a much higher learning curve for the Protoss as well. So it's not easy to just like figure out how to cannon rush well. Generally, your macro skills can translate into turtling to Skytoss, where your standard macro skills can't exactly necessarily translate to cannon rushing very well. So, which we kind of see in the GSL every now and then whenever a Protoss player like Zest or something tries to cannon rush and they like don't wall their cannons in and like forget to make an extra pylon or cancel them. Just recently saw Zound pulled off a cannon rush, got the full pylon wall surrounding his cannon, was like a guaranteed win, and then he canceled an extra pylon he'd built, but it wasn't an extra pylon, it was his cannon, so instead he just had 4 pylons and no cannons. And he built the extra pylon so he could pop his probe out from behind the wall. You know how you can do that trick to like build a building and it pushes your unit out of the wall off. So he did that. So he was outside of the wall off with his probe as well. Cancels, so now he can't get back inside his pylons to build a cannon where
Yeah,
it's
we'll
protected.
have to look for that replay there, or at least
Insane stuff. It was very unfortunate. But enough of that. We're focusing on these games, as we do have Moon Dance to go into game number 2. And it's going to be Tropical Sacrifice, actually. Wait, I thought Moon Dance was game number 2. I think we did the wrong map.
Yeah, we did. Looks like Mizel made the wrong map. We have to remake this.
Yeah, let's see. Wrong map. Okay. Like, and it looks like we have Moon Dance. Then I look back at my main monitor. I'm like, this says Tropical Sacrifice on it. That's game 3, if we make it there, which I kind of hope we do. It's always nice to at least get a game 3 on your first series debut, you know? While we're making the map, I'll go ahead and give a quick shout out to the channel that, if I'm allowed to, that actually showed me that game. I just saw this pop up on YouTube recently, and they're kind of blowing up, sort of like the esports historian that Psystorm recently partnered with. They're called Wave Captain, and they just make little compilation videos titled things like Close Games, but they get increasingly more intense, comebacks, but they get even crazier, and it's just StarCraft games of like, you know, just a compilation of like 4 or 5 comeback games with just the highlights of those games, things like that. It's very interesting stuff, and they've just been blowing up recently with like 40,000 views on videos, and I had not seen them until like a week ago, and now they're just all over the place. Literally first video was a month ago, and they're already up to getting like 10 to 40,000 views on videos. So very well done by them. And yeah, some cool content if you want to see cool highlighted games from Pro Series and the GSL and WCS and ESL and all that stuff. So definitely check them out. It's Wave Captain on YouTube. Big shout outs to them. Who knows? Maybe that's also the esports historian. And also, I guess, a shout out to esports historian Bassett, I believe is his name. He just tells stories mainly from StarCraft, like very ancient stuff that I had no idea about. Some very niche storylines that a lot of people are not familiar with. Myself, at least, was not familiar with. So cool stuff there. That's the esports historian on YouTube. It looks like we are getting into the next lobby. Inviting the players in, and we'll be able to hop into game. As actually on Moondance this time, we'll have a little pocket base. Oh wait, yeah, where is Gray? I don't see him in the FSL chat. I think oh, US West, right, because I believe Gray is a ways around the world. So we got to have that fair ping for all players, after all. I wish they just have a server option like in the lobby instead of having to like select it in your game settings and everything. It's such a pain to change those around. Takes way more time than it probably needs to, but I guess that's part of what you get for playing a almost 13-year-old game now. Still a lot of fun though. Definitely enjoyed the 13-year-old game nonetheless. And we do have all the players in now. It is Moondance. Sorry about the delays on that, everyone. We'll be able to hop into game now. Just making sure the players are ready. And then we'll be hopping right in. Yep, so we're loading in now. And second game, potentially final game, if Hyper Turtle can manage to close it out, or will Gray, the new player, bring it back? Find out.
You're watching FSL Season 6.
Alrighty, we're here in the top left-hand side of Moondance LE. We've got the orange Zerg player. He's down 0-1. He is.
Great.
And he's going to try and bring it back. In the bottom right-hand side, we've got the purple Protoss player. He is.
Hyper Turtle.
Alrighty, so Moondance got a little bit of a pocket base action. It is a half pocket base. It's only got 5 mineral patches, I believe it is, or 6 instead of 8. Yeah, 6 instead of 8 patches, and only 1 Vespene Geyser. So half the gas mining, 3/4 of the mineral mining. So a lot of times you see it take a little while before players will actually wind up taking that, because it's better to risk it for the extra mining, generally speaking. Or just go all in off of 2 bases. I suppose that's also an option. Do have a quick pool out of Gray. As Hyper Turtle coming in. Could have blocked that base. Opts not to. Opts to. Can't anymore. Tails Oldest Time will jet back up into the main nonetheless. And yeah, we do have the 12 pool. 8 lings. Now, speaking of strategies that are hard to deal with, 12 pool. Pretty hard to deal with. What we want to see is Cybercore, Second Gateway, and a Chrono Zealot. But the big thing that a lot of players forget to do is, oh my gosh, is he not going to make a Zealot? Oh, he's dead. Hyper Turtle is dead, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, he's just going to full wall it, I think. Is that a full wall? No. Okay, Hyper Turtle, I think, may be dead. Speaking of builds that are hard to beat, Turtle Carriers meet 12 pool. It's hard to beat, but it also takes 10 minutes fewer time to lose to. As depowered the gateway, killing the other pylon, and then we'll be able to just target down that gateway. As the other pylon the Hyper Turtle made is not enough to repower the gateway, I don't believe. And every probe coming down, the boys on the way, trying to save the day. But 6 lings are going to be able to trade out pretty effectively against the probes. But I would have liked to see a little bit more kiting. Still, even just trading out 3 probes in total. And droning up behind this, a 12 pool. Another solid build to pull out. I really like that he did this, you know. Saying, no more carriers, son. Definitely could have played it better to just outright win, I think. But now a Zealot will make it out, I believe. Lings can still be quite a pain for quite a while, though. As Hyper Turtle... I was going to say the thing you really need to make, beyond just getting a Zealot in the wall off, is the second pylon. It's very often forgotten, is your second pylon in this build. What a lot of players do is they add that second gateway, they add the Cybercore, they make their first Zealot, and they forget to make their second pylon, and so that first Zealot is all they get. They can't make an Adept, and they can't make the second Zealot that you're supposed to make, which means your Zealot can't really actually do much. It has to sit in the wall as it slowly watches the Lings rip and tear the gateway and Cybercore apart. Not a great time if you are a Protoss player, generally speaking. That didn't wind up mattering because there wasn't a Zealot in the wall this time, unfortunately. So, a well-done build out of Gray. Unfortunately, microing so much on the other side of the map that he did not put his drones to work until just now. The longer you can run those rings with those Lings, I suppose, around the main base, the better. Keeps APM going for the opposing player as well. It's Hyper Turtle only just now really getting unsupply blocked. Has full walled himself in. Does not have a natural nexus just yet, though is very close to having the money for it. Definitely want to see Ling speed on the way, and there we go. Indeed, it is on the way. Will we see Hyper Turtle attempt to go across the map here with his Stalkers? Does not look like it, as they are back behind the wall off. Just going to be a little bit safe here. But Gray setting himself up in a very, very nice position. Because he's up almost double in supply. Got a third base going down, an even timing with the natural base of Hyper Turtle. It's not really typically a good feeling for the Protoss player. Even finds a stray probe, and we definitely see, I mean, Gray's got a lot of APM to work with, which is it's you can be very effective as a slower quote-unquote player. KJ himself oftentimes around 100 APM, I think it is, and is still Masters with all 3 races, and has even hit GM, or almost hit GM, right? Was it?
Yeah, pretty close.
Never quite. Never
Almost
quite.
there a couple times, but not.
I think
not
as
quite.
well. You peaked back when it was way harder to hit GM at all, if I remember right.
Yeah, I did. I was almost there, and then I gave up.
Yeah. Yeah, I used to be a lot. Like, you didn't have any info about how close you were to GM, really.
Yeah.
And it was much harder to get in. Nowadays, just because it's a little bit slower, and also because they changed the way the system works, it's easier, both because you know how close you are, and I think it's just a little bit lower MMR overall because it's a little bit less active of a game than it used to be. But nonetheless, you can be very effective with low APM. But having more APM just means that whenever you find out things to do with that APM, you have the APM to do it.
That's
so
right.
it's good for potential. 15 Banelings on the way and 22 more Lings, speaking of. Holy cow. And right as Hyper Turtle's like, let me go ahead and bust this pylon out. And just out of view, there's 15 Banelings morphing in. Like, yeah, do bust that pylon, actually. That would be great.
Uh-oh.
Oh, no!
Let's see.
Oh, no! Oh, he makes it in! All
force
the
field yet.
Banelings. Oh, yeah, he had a sentry!
Why?
Oh, probably in panic mode. I
mean, the worst force field that you could do, which is nothing.
Yeah, does overcharge the battery, but there's just so much stuff here that once that battery overcharge runs out, there'll still be plenty of Lings, I think, to take down everything. Although that said, I think if you just run up into the main base here as Gray, that is helpful. Still, I mean, even if he survives here, he's at half the worker count now. And Gray's still got a third base up. He's continuing to flood Lings across the map as well, and I don't think there's a wall down at the bottom. Still.
Well,
no,
there's a stalker that's
Very well done.
moving!
Oh, but it wasn't hold position.
Oh
Get
my
in there.
gosh. Oh, maybe he needs to
man.
plug it.
He has to plug it. He's not going to plug it, I don't
He's
think.
not
Oh,
plugging
he was trying. Still, he's got enough Zealots, and he does have a little bit of shield
Yeah.
battery energy, but I mean, even just trading here is great for Gray because he's got so much more money. But there we go. We'll pull back. But I think Hyper Turtle is going to feel pretty all in, and this is the kind of army that does well when it has those little choke points between the minerals and things like that. If he tries to move out on the map, it's not going to be so much. That said, though, if he can get enough money for an actual Dark Templar, there is exactly 0 detection on the map. Lair starting up, though, and there's no pylon on the other side of the map, which means even if you are in a Dark Templar, it has to work all the way across. Yeah. And I don't think it'll have enough time before the Lair finishes to actually equalize this game, as it's 53 workers to 13.
I bet you don't forget about the... Oh!
Now that it's just Stalkers as well, Lings trade so much more effectively. The Banelings clearing out. I'm not sure if that was really that intentional, but hitting the Adept and the Zealous with the Banelings was very good. Oh, and now he'll even see the DTs potentially.
He's giving it away.
Yeah. You gotta hope that Gray is a new enough player that he doesn't recognize. I mean, I hear that noise in the middle of the night and I jolt awake, so... we'll have to see if he knows what the
he's not
splicing
mining those minerals, but now
yeah, he might just be waiting for his lair. as a new player, I guess I could definitely see it being like, it's not the first thought in your head when you notice that the enemy has cloak units to be like, quick, throw up an anti-air turret, you know?
Oh, yeah, Slayer.
Yeah, the lair just finished up. I'm not sure. Does he know what to do against DTs? I mean, he's got a lair, so if he has even the slightest inkling of what you're supposed to do here, maybe he doesn't realize because there was a stalker. He's just like, dang,
There
what upgrade did he get on the stalkers? There we go. Yeah, there's just not enough time before that Overseer completes. I mean, you could kill like 30 drones and you'd still be so far down in this game. And it's about to finish up, and that's a huge investment there of... Hello? Okay. Hello?
This is the new player jitters, man.
Yeah, the new player jitters. This may be the first the first time in a while. At least one of the few times he's actually played against Dark Templar.
And look at this queen.
Oh, man. So many injects going down. I was going to say, I don't think the DTs can get enough damage, and I mean, he does clean up those two. 3 queens is a small price to pay when you're up 33 workers. And the Protoss, yeah, I mean, is making an Archon in the middle of your base. That works as well. I think we're going to see an equalize. It's like, I don't think he can lose to DTs here, but DTs can do a lot of crazy things.
I still think he's too far behind.
Yeah, now with an excellent backstab. So smart. That's very good to do. The more you can pull your opponent's tension back across the map in these sorts of situations, the better. And Hyper Turtle not thinking on his feet quite fast enough. That Stalker probably should have been a DT. Stalkers are only slightly better than probes against Zerglings, so once that battery overcharge runs out, I think we'll just... It's funny, he keeps fighting until the battery overcharge runs out, and then he's like, now I'll run away. now that your units are exposed. Still, I think he's just getting too much damage. 11 workers going down. He's got 4 bases. Roaches are out. He will be called.
Well, I gotta say, it all comes down to Hyper Turtle missing the links. He saw the pool, and a couple of links went by his vision, but he probably was not looking. But he didn't feel the timing at all, because he did not. He had plenty of time to make the Zealot. He did not make the Zealot.
Yeah, I would definitely think so. Definitely unfortunate, and yeah, I think he must have just not seen the lings, because I think the Zealot was basically made after the lings were already there, like it wasn't even started before they showed up. So
yeah, he could have made the lings. The Zealot as soon as he saw the pool, right? You don't even
a
have
little
to chrono it.
unfortunate.
Yeah, so
And
I think
you know what?
he just missed it.
You know what I'll say is, at Hyper Turtle's level, you probably almost never see 12 pool, because 12 pool is so stupidly good for how much effort it takes that if you know how to 12 pool, you're probably like Masters 3.
Yeah,
because
so
it's basically just a free win up until like mid diamond. So it's
maybe that's
possible
the
you don't
thing.
have a whole lot of practice against it. I remember Instability and I had to drill that for like 3 hours before she could get the whole, like, because it's a lot as well that early on in the game. It's like suddenly your build goes from like, I'll slowly make a Nexus and then I'll eventually make a Cyber Core and a second pylon to like, all right, I need to make another gateway, a Cyber Core, a pylon, a Zealot, Chrono the Zealot, make another Zealot behind that, have a probe in the wall. Like, it's a lot you have to do all of a sudden.
Yep. He played
it's
really
not an
well
easy
in game 1. In game 2, he just had several crucial mistakes. One was the Zealot, as we mentioned, and then of course going out, right, and not force fielding, and just kind of all these things.
Yeah, a little late on the force field. That was the thing as well. I mean, it's just one of those things where you hit panic mode as soon as you see like Lings and Banes coming in. I remember because oh yeah, I've been there. Not as much because I don't play Protoss, but every now and then you have that with Zerg. It really happens with the DTs there, you know. You just like start losing your mind when they walk into your base and you don't have any detection ready yet.
Yeah, I started playing Protoss a few months ago, or maybe it's almost a year now, and that's the first like introduction to Zerg for you is Baneling Bus, Link Floods, etc. As you move up, and then you learn to build a wall, and then after you know you're settled there, then you just gotta get to the next level, which is getting your third base, not dying to mutas, etc. So.
Yep, absolutely. But yeah, I remember because Instability, one of her first matches in her first season was against Neutrophil. And he wound up Baneling busting her when he got Zerg.
The first
so we
one,
tried to like
first.
We tried to like train her on that. And yeah, you'd get all the pieces in play, you know, you've made the sentry, and then the Banelings would come walking up and he'd just freeze up and she would like never force field. the sentry would always be there, and she'd always forget the force field. It took a lot of training to kind of get that, because there's just so many moving parts you start worrying about.
Yeah.
When that kind of stuff happens, especially as Protoss, when in that situation, it's like one misstep and you're just completely dead.
Yep.
That's sort of the benefit and the disadvantage to Protoss, is that you can scrape by with almost nothing in the early game against those attacks.
Mhm.
Like just like 2 or 3 units is enough to hold like 50, Zerglings.
Yep.
But you have to micro them really well, and you have to re-wall, and you have to know exactly what you need to do to be able to pull that off. So it's
Yeah,
a double-edged sword
yeah.
for sure.
The one thing too I learned is if Zerg does that against me and I wall just in time, I know they're behind, and I just get a couple of adepts over and start doing some damage. Unless they're all inning, in which case I'm like, oh, even better. All I gotta do is hold this, and I'm just gonna win, right? So just keep that in mind. Even though it seems unfair that Zerg busts in, etc., Zerg is way behind because Protoss worker count is just way higher.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, you have to put some pressure on for sure on the other side of things, especially with a 12 pool, because behind a 12 pool, the Zerg wants nothing more than to be left alone for the next 5 minutes so that they can catch up on drones and everything like that. Just 2 adepts forces out, because a lot of times you wind up losing some Zerglings and stuff like that, so you don't have the Zerglings that you originally made.
Yeah.
So forcing out another 8 Zerglings or something like that to deal with 2 adepts puts you so far behind as the Zerg, or so much farther behind than you would be.
Yeah.
It definitely takes some effort from you, and you can't just like YOLO the adepts and lose them. You want to make it out with them and everything. But
Yeah.
putting on pressure as Protoss is so important, even if you don't wind up doing anything with it. And you see that a lot at the highest level, where they just like move out with an army, and then they just get halfway across the map, and they're like, okay, my work here is done, and they walk back home.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you didn't do anything. It's like, I didn't, but I did make him make all these extra units and freak out and do all these things, and so
Yeah,
it's
and
indirect
he can't
damage.
kill you because all you can do is if you get a an oracle out, you have a free third base with a couple of adepts. So those are minor
true.
things, so you can get going in your economy, and you are actually ahead of Zerg for a while.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think if you hold 12 pool perfectly, it probably puts you slightly ahead, and so you just gotta. It's one of those things that's good to practice, and it's funny. It's a difficult build to hold, but it's very easy to get practice against it because each practice game takes like 3 minutes.
Yes.
What you gotta not get lulled into is when you're practicing playing out every game for like 20 minutes afterwards. You gotta just be like, okay, did I hold the 12 pull, and then just leave the game? A lot of times you can just wind up kind of falling into like, okay, now I'm just gonna play out the rest of this game, and what could have been a 3 or 4 minute practice game winds up being 20 minutes, and instead of being able to practice it like 10, 15 times in an hour, you get to practice it 3 times in an hour. So you gotta keep your eyes on the prize, so to speak.
Yeah. So
But,
we had a
I
little
think-
bit of a delay here, guys. Gray had to reconnect.
Yes.
And he's back.
Yep, those wonderful Blizzard servers we also know so much about. But I will say, a good attempt at a Hyper Turtle there to come back. I think Dark Shrine was definitely like the play there. If he'd force fielded, I think Dark Shrine would have been enough to get him back in, if not just win, right?
Yes, sir.
Because by the time the DTs made it across, because he didn't force field, it's like, yeah, you could get some damage done, but you're down almost 40 workers. So we'll see how it goes in game number 3. We see 2 wildly different games.
You're watching FSL Season 6.
All right. In the upper right-hand side of Tropical Sacrifice LE, we have the purple Protoss player. He is
Hyper Turtle.
And his opponent in the bottom left, we have the orange Zerg player. He is
Gray.
I've heard that this map is actually like a bit of a pain with the wall off. I think it was this map at least, like the pylon positioning.
Yeah, it's hard to
relative
tell.
to the Nexus. It's
Yep,
like
it's
a
hard
little.
to tell what you're doing in terms of you're not gonna block your nexus here, but you may have 2 holes in your wall if you're not careful.
Yep. So definitely a difficult ramp to wall. We'll hope he does it correctly here. That looks possibly incorrect already. Like I said, I think this one is considered to be like the hardest one to wall in the pool. Gotta go refer to Gemini's guides, So we do see another 12 pool coming down. I like this. Or I think it was actually maybe a little bit later of a pool there because he was able to get the hatchery down. So still aggression, but a little bit less aggression. Potentially, I think, hoping for an overreaction at Hyper Turtle this time around. Might even only make like one pair of lings or no lings with this build. I wouldn't be terribly shocked if that was the case. Just make a queen and keep droning. And yet we see 3 drones on the way. So I think this is pretty much perfect out of Gray. Fantastic mind game. It's funny. I feel like the mind games are ridiculously effective in Code A. I think we saw that last season. I think it was Criminal. It was someone against Deepu, a Terran player, who like proxied in one game and then faked a proxy the next game, and just Deepu was like one base turtled on the high ground, and his opponent was expanding and macroing up and everything and completely happy. And I feel like at this level, like Platinum and Diamond, just enough to be really dangerous to yourself, where you see like 1 or 2 telltale signs and you're like, aha, I know now that this is an all-in. And then if they're not actually all-inning, you get yourself so hard. It's one of the hardest things to learn is the follow-up scouts on initial scouts.
I think the game you're talking about, if it's Terran, Protoss, Deepu, last couple of weeks ago, was Noob Lord.
No, this would be last season.
Oh, last
it was
season?
one of the first matches of last season, I think. I can't remember which.
It's hard to
Terran
say,
it was.
man. There's been so many games, and I've been in all of them. So-
Right? Yeah.
You probably casted it, didn't
Mighty
you?
Ant. I think it was Mighty Ant.
Ah, Mighty Ant. Okay, yeah, he does love unusual builds.
Yeah, he seemed like just generally in his series, he's a pretty smart player. He does a lot of those mind games and things like that. So, pretty cool stuff. But yeah, I think in this league in particular, you can mind game your opponents really hard because you do know just like you learn the first telltale signs of like all-ins and stuff, but you have to. It's kind of hard to learn how to do the follow-up scouts and be like, okay, is this actually still an all-in? Even sometimes GMs might get fooled by that. So at this level, a lot of times they don't do those follow-up things, the little checks to be like, is this definitely an all-in?
Yep.
And it's like 5 minutes later, the other person's on like 3 bases going up to 4, and you're still on like 1 or 2. You got like 8 spine crawlers. You're like, I'm not dying to this all-in. But I don't think we're seeing that quite out of Hyper Turtle here. No shield battery, just a sentry. Well, there's a shield battery, but I don't think that's a shield battery because he thought he was getting all-in off 1 base. So, not bad at all.
So I'll tell you this: watching Gray now for the 3rd game, but the first 2 games, he has a lot of good play in terms of, like you said, like macro and doing all kinds of mass type things. He is missing some certain things on his play, and even the multitasking, going back at home and injecting and all that. So there are holes in his play, and now I can tell why. It's very small. After he fixes them, I think he's in legitimate diamond.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think his whole play kind of screams as like new player, basically.
And he got here pretty fast. I was like, wow.
Yeah, very, very fast. The fastest progression I ever saw was still on Psystorm, Ryan. He literally got GM in a year.
From what?
From never having played the game before.
That is absolutely insane. Did he play other RTSs at least?
No, he was actually like a GM in Heroes of the Storm prior to, if I remember right.
That helps somewhat.
Yeah, somewhat. You definitely have like the micro, I think, out of that. But I mean, he got all the way up to 6K MMR. I mean, he was taking. I think he beat Goblin at one point in an ESL tournament. He beat Future. Like he got really, really good.
And then he had to go to work.
Yeah. I'm not sure if he's still super around. I think he's in college now, and I think actually, funnily enough, he really hated the Void Ray meta. He was a Protoss player, but he hated the Void Ray meta.
Yeah.
That like 2-year period, I think, killed a lot of people's passion because that was, I think, the longest we had a stagnant meta. Like I remember there were lots of complaints about Swarm hosts and stuff like that, and Swarm hosts.
That was the worst.
In Heart of the Swarm, it was the worst.
Yeah.
But it also didn't last nearly as long.
Oh, really? I thought it was there for a while, but
it was there for a good while. But I think Void Rays were close to like 2.5, 3 years that it was.
And
the Void
you're
Ray
talking
meta.
about, just to be clear, the Void Ray meta where they made it cheaper and you get it out
right.
faster.
Cheaper, came out faster. It was like 2019 to like 2021, basically. I think it was the last big balance patch did that, and then it was just like a couple of years where there weren't a whole lot of. It was also very rare on the map updates as well, if I remember right.
I see.
And so
Yeah,
it
it's
just
the
kinda
map
combined
updates
everything.
because the Void Ray meta that really produces the Queen Walk, right?
Yes.
But to me, what I hated was the Long Reaper meta, where they really did not address that for a very long time.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and even I think the thing with that was it was one of the rare times where even when they tried to address it, the like first 2 or 3 things they did
Thanks
didn't
for the
fix it.
sub. Sorry to interrupt there, but JMPZ gifting a sub to Ghost Chan.
Oh yeah, big thanks JMPZ. But yeah, the Reaper meta was funny. It was like it felt like they tried to do something about it, but if I remember right, they like tried to nerf it like 2 or 3 times before it finally got nerfed enough.
It was insane.
Because it was just so good. And I don't think that really happened with any other thing where it was like it required like multiple nerfs. Most of the time, it may take them a little while to get to something, but once they nerf it, it's it's nerfed enough. But that said, we got Mutalisk coming in, a lot of variant out of Gray here, and that's really excellent.
This is a
does
big
run away
catch.
from the Archon. Yeah, absolutely. Oh,
Ooh,
Phoenix
the
is coming out.
F2s.
Go out of Hyper Turtle.
There's a hole.
Oh yeah. Oh, he could kill that Phoenix.
But there's a cannon.
There's a cannon. Not bad though. Not bad damage. 7 workers. It's 37 to 60, and Hyper Turtle's got to be real careful. It's so hard to micro Phoenixes. That's one thing. Is like you even see it at the pro level sometimes, where it's like, oh, Phoenix is hard counter Mutalisks, but then they just get caught. Because there's so much multitask to do, and Phoenixes are so squishy that if you don't catch it, like the instant the mutas are coming at them, they're all dead.
Look at all these things.
Yeah, I do like this. Just a constant flood across the map. Stalker's not very good against that. Coming into the main base.
Ooh.
Doesn't quite know how to magic box. I think he's trying to go for it a little bit there. Just definitely not. It's not practiced, right?
Yeah.
You haven't had the thousands of games of doing these kinds of things and just learning the micro over and over and over. Good. Fairly good micro, but again, yeah, it's very hard. Like, even if you're kiting it fairly well, a lot of times you wind up taking that chip damage over time, and Mutalisk kind of just outscale you. So it's 130 supply to 58. Definitely not looking great here for Hyper Turtle, but still could have a chance to stabilize and come back from it. I remember we've seen, in recent times in particular, several very huge comebacks from being down against Mutalisk from Protoss players. Showtime really comes to mind against Serral.
Oh my gosh, yeah,
I think
yeah,
a season ago or something, where it was just like, how is this man even still alive, much less winds up winning the game? It was like 60 supply. So, still could come back, obviously, but Gray's actually doing a very good job here with the Mutalisk. I'm very impressed by the variants we've seen.
Man. If you're a Protoss player dealing with this...
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And he's not been continually producing the Phoenix because he's so low on money. And one Phoenix does go down. He's only got 1 left, and there it goes as well.
Yeah, and this Archon...
Yeah, behind this, we're not seeing any sort of stagnation in the unit composition as well out of Gray. We're seeing Hydralisks and Roaches come out, which should do very well against the Stalkers down the line. And he's even keeping the Mutas alive. The longer you have those, the more they, just a continual threat of Mutas is so valuable. Makes it very hard to just take your full army to go fight the Roach Hydra that comes in. But definitely very good out of Gray in this game and looking very strong. He's almost triple the worker count right now, even making Burrow. Roach and Hydra speed, very nicely done. And I don't think we have Blink on the Stalkers either. No, we don't. So it's so hard to chase those Mutalisks down with the Stalkers. There's really no chase potential in Hyper Turtle's army here, which means you can pretty much fly these Mutas anywhere you want because there's no Blink and there's no Phoenix. Yeah, the Lings even catch a little bit. The Hydra or the Mutas, I think he's just kind of moving them around on the mini-map maybe, so it does wind up getting caught a little bit there. 3 Mutas left though. And yeah, not bad out of Gray at all.
Yeah, huge lead now.
Yeah, absolutely massive. Over triple the supply.
Yeah.
Quadruple the army supply. Yeah, very well done.
I'll tell you this, AT. I've been in this spot as Protoss against Zergs that I played in ladder 2-3 times where I wreck them, and then the third game they pull this off, and then I look like the noob on the other side, right? This is not representative of the difference in skill between these two.
Yeah.
It's just he was not able to close the choke, and he got surprised by Mutas. That's really what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. Not if you don't see the It's basically you have to scout it before they hit your base. If
Yeah.
the mutas hit your base, it's basically only an act of God can save you at that point.
Mhm.
They just have so much damage potential, and you need very specific things that you're not typically going to get in a game of ZVP to be able to deal with them. So if you don't have that at least on the way by the time the mutas are coming across the map, it's it's pretty much game over. And at this level, it's hard to scout. You got
Yeah.
one tiny little 2x2 building.
Look at this
That
monster
really tells you
force, man.
everything. Yeah,
is the
that is a
GG
huge amount
force.
of Roach Ravager. This is a build we saw a lot in like 2018, 2019 during Cyril's like big dominant year. I think it was 2018. Just the max out on roaches behind a Mutatech build. He did a little bit more aggression with the Lings than you saw back then. That's a little bit more of a modern thing, which is very strong as we saw there as well. But just the Roach max out because you're going for things like Stalkers and Phoenix. And if there's a unit that don't care about Phoenix, it's Roaches, especially because they're about to have +2/+2. And even with the Ravagers on the way as well. And I mean, there aren't any Phoenix in this map, but Stalkers also don't do very well against this number of Roach Ravager. And yeah, just absolutely dominating the army. Very well done. I gotta say, great build variance out of Gray. I mean, not a single repeat build in a best of 3 is not something you see out of a player this new very often. Very well done, and GG is going to be called.
Yeah, I gotta say too that I feel like these two, if you play them several times over, you know, they should be pretty even. So.
Yeah, I think that was a very even series overall. That last game definitely didn't reflect the skill, you know, like difference or anything like that. Like it looked super dominant in that game, but that's just what Mutalists look like. If they don't get scouted there. So we are dragging our players in here. We've got Hyper Turtle and Gray here. Hyper Turtle, we'll talk a little bit too. Game 1, you know, kind of went all your way with the carriers, but it looked like the aggression in Game 2. It seemed like you saw the early pool, but you didn't necessarily see the Lings pop out. Is that correct?
I expected it more or less. It just came split second before the Zealot and the Pylon came out.
Fair enough.
I tried to stretch it to try to get my economy going a little first.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely a game of tight margins when a 12 pool's involved. A lot of times that Zealot makes it out just a second beforehand, and if not, then it can be kind of just all over there. Game number 2, I think it was really just, we were talking about it, you know,
I thought we were just talking about game number 2.
Or sorry, game number 3. Sorry.
Okay.
Win number 2 for Gray. The second game that didn't go your way, I should say. Mutas, you know, you don't scout them. It's just so hard to really come up with what you need to defend them. It's kind of the thing, you got to plan for it, you know, in advance. Is that kind of how it felt there? Just caught a little off guard?
A little bit. I thought I had a good composition. I was really having a tough time shift-clicking units to divide them up between the bases. They kept not actually getting removed from the group.
Yep.
Right. Yeah, that definitely happens.
Right stuff overall, but game 2 and 3, both times, there was enough worker damage to put me behind.
Yeah, and game 1, though, went, I think, very, very well for you. Defended that initial little Ling flood he did with a solid positioning of the wall, and then carrier play did quite well as well. I think the only real mistake there was maybe, I think Storm didn't get started when you thought it had. I remember the Corruptors coming in, and there's like 12 Storms on the High Templar, but no research.
Yes, I remember that.
Yeah, definitely difficult, but managed to come back and win it anyways. I think some good trades with the Corruptors initially, but a very good addition with the Archons. That splash damage doing so much against the Corruptors there, and very well done overall in game number 1.
I think I managed to keep all the lurkers from hatching too.
Yes, you caught them.
Yes, not a
really
single
good
lurker
catch.
made it out, and you even had a little bit of a surprise breakout Oracle a little bit later than you expected.
11 worker kills.
Got 11 worker kills, yeah, just a little later on to the game. Than you
Yeah,
typically expect.
I've gotten people with that before, where you know it's past the time when an Oracle's supposed to show up, so they stop taking into account.
That was huge. Huge kills there. That was a quarter of his supply.
That was very anti-timing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, absolutely.
So nice of you, bro.
One thing I want to add is Hyper Turtle. How did the match feel? Because we can see everything, right? We see who's got the advantage, who's got the build, what the mistakes are, right? Like it felt like you were actually the more solid player in terms of what you're supposed to do. You just kind of didn't execute it, right? Not being on the wall, moving units around here or there. Like I want to see your because he looked more like the newer player, but he was so aggressive he got in. Do
Well,
you
he
feel
is
that's
a
the
newer
case?
player. Did he? Gray, did you say you started about a year ago?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I
we could
started in
tell.
1998, so never really trained. I've never really been one to train that hard, though. I prefer just, do what I feel like doing.
Yep.
Yeah, there were a lot of little things. That first game also, I was getting up ready for a pylon block on the natural, and it didn't go down in time either. So, just little things where I wasn't in the right place at the right time, or I've always had trouble trying to divide up my groups on the fly using shift. So it's
Why
one
don't
of
you even
those
do
things
that,
where
man?
I need to, I need to get the control groups down. But yeah, I shift click a bunch, and then my whole army moves anyway, and don't know what happened.
That's hard, man. That's really hard to
Yeah.
do. I don't even try it because I screw it up.
I try it because I realize I haven't divided things up into control groups like I was supposed to. So desperate times call for desperate measures.
So back to my thing there. I feel like you guys are pretty closely matched. I can't wait for you guys to play again. It won't be in the regular season, but perhaps in the playoffs. There you go.
Yeah, it definitely looked like
Thank
a relatively close series overall. But let's talk to Gray really quick here. Obviously, were you worried after game one with those carriers and everything?
Yeah, I agree.
Oh my gosh.
So,
yeah.
I was really surprised. It was my fault. Not scouting those carriers. I should have sacrificed few of the overlords just to see that. So I was kind of panicking when I saw the carrier. So oh shit! I'm sorry, I cursed. But yeah, um, so I tried creating corruptors as many as I can, and then I'm trying to delay the expansions. However, I think I made too much carriers on that game.
Raptors?
Maybe because of the panic.
Corruptors, you
Like
mean? Yeah.
I'm not sure how many carriers are there already. So
Yep.
Right.
and yeah.
Right, and obviously, I think in the real final big fight of the game in the bottom right, there was just some big splash damage on the corruptors from the archons on the
Yeah,
ground. So.
the positioning of the archons were so good that they are trying to like protect those carriers. So whenever I hit one, they get like damage from the archons. So
Stacked.
it's kind
They
of
get
hard.
stacked better than
Yeah.
us Starcrafters like to use.
Yep, absolutely. Well, and then I gotta say, big props to you for being such a new player. I mean, I was somewhat expecting, because this is what we see a lot of times from new players who have improved as fast as you have. Is you have like, this is my build. I do this build. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, I'm gonna do it the next game and see
So
if it works.
before I used to go with just one build, and then I kind of slack a lot because we stopped. So me and Noob Lord, he's on the FSL as well. He's gonna play. We both started trying like StarCraft a year ago, and then we quit after some time. We realized that I think it's true that StarCraft is one of the hardest games in the world. So it's kind of hard to it's hard to be competitive.
Right.
But then we met these people in Philippines that they're really into StarCraft and these kind of leagues. So I'm very thankful for those people who coached us, like Bayagster, Knox, Mizel, for an instance. He's giving us pointers every now and then. And I think the biggest thing is that StarCraft is a game of resource, right? And what I don't want to do is, and attention is resource. So I don't want to do something that's like half baked or like half cooked, because I'm gonna spend my resource on that attention. Let's say I'm attacking, I'm just gonna focus everything on attacking, and then yeah.
That makes perfect sense. Well, yeah, I mean, we saw, I think, some really cool build variants. You didn't do the same opening a single time, just slightly different, a little earlier, a little later of a pool, or just expanding first. So
Well,
very cool to
actually,
see.
it's because of so what happened there is that um I missed on one like Overlord, I think. So instead of going, so what on the second game I missed clicking. I thought I clicked the hatchery and built one drone and one Overlord. And then I noticed, no, oh, it didn't happen. So I had to go for a 12 pull in that game. Same goes for the third game. So I was supposed to build like hatchery in 16, I think, 16 or 17.
Right.
And then I missed one drone going down, the natural. So I just go for
right,
17 pull instead.
So
And I think that's good because it's gonna bring like a mind game. What's the timing of this like spawning pool, right? So
His mind game is
I'm
mistakes.
hoping
Yeah.
I'm hoping he might think that's a 12 pull and overreact. Because I'm scared of carriers again. So
Right.
Well, you know what? I gotta tell you, Gray, you're revealing too much here, and now people are gonna know how to play you. So remember, this is a preparation league, so it's like GSL. So, but good luck to you.
Yeah.
It was good for you to get your debut here and steal a win, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Right? Steal a win against Mr. Hyper Turtle. But you ain't seen the last of him, and you'll see some challenging players also. But it's good to come out with your first win. So congrats.
Yeah,
again.
very well done. Very well done.
Thank you for having me, guys.
Yep.
Yeah,
All right,
thank you
and
for coming.
see you later, Hyper Turtle and Gray.
Yep, later.
Later, guys. All right. Well, the very interesting perspective there from new players. It's actually
Yeah.
his mistake that made
Right?
him seem like he has variation, supposedly, right?
There you go. I mean,
which
he
you
played
need.
it out very well from that mistake.
Yeah.
A lot of players just kind of panic and take the hatchery anyways, right? Or something
Yeah.
like that. So
Yeah.
having the wherewithal to just go, you know what? Just going to 12 pull. He executed it well. So very well done, honestly. That
and-
looked like a prepared 12 pull, to be honest.
Yeah. So
Especially in game number 2. So,
So
anyways,
what
we're
we'll take a break because we're waiting for instability to be on camera. So we'll take just a couple of minutes break. We'll be right back.
Alrighty.
Sarah, what have you done?
Kerrigan, the die you cast. This is the last day. Your swarm darkens the sky of any planet.
Forget Minsk. Forget all of it.
When we are done here, I will return to my people and accept their judgment.
Command, we've found Kerrigan. She's holed up in a Zerg base.
I made my peace long ago.
Consider it done. For ire. Indeed.
All right, we're back, guys. We are back. Let us bring in ET back as well. Okay, we're back with ET here. We got instability.
Hello.
And JMPZ. Let's get their cameras on. Yours as well.
Yep.
There you go.
Alrighty. the final match of the night, the Code S match. We've got one of our new players for the season here, JMPZ, and Instability, one of the becoming a seasoned veteran in her 3rd season of the FSL. JMPZ, how are you feeling going into tonight's match?
Oh, I think he's muted. Go
As
ahead,
you are
Dave.
muted.
Unmute for a minute, guys. You Instability. We'll interview you guys soon. Just undo that one. There you go.
No. I think you're muted in Discord, JMPZ.
All right, how about now?
There we go. There we go. All right, so how are you feeling about tonight's match?
Third time's a charm here. Better than last week, we'll say that.
All right, perfect. Have you watched back any of Instability's previous games and seasons, or going into it pretty much blind and looking to learn?
Only this season. I saw, because I watched, I think it was day 2, I think they played, so I watched her pretty much that day.
Okay. Right, against Hurt in Time, I believe it was.
Yes, that was the match.
Right.
Yep.
Perfect. And Instability, how are you feeling about tonight's match, your 2nd match of the season?
Decent, I guess. I obviously haven't been able to see a lot of his gameplay, and I wasn't sure what race he was playing because he said he was playing random. So I don't have a lot of knowledge going into it.
Okay, interesting, interesting. Yeah, it's another PVZ, just like the last series. So how do you feel about your Protoss versus Zerg overall relative to the other matchups?
Is that a question for me?
That was a question for Instability, but
Well, the last match was a PVT.
yes, but I mean, this is hardly the only season you've played in at this point. I just meant overall, over the last few seasons, on your ladder matches, things like that. How do you feel about your PVZ?
PVZ either goes very well or very poorly, and I can't say at the beginning which it will be.
Wildly inconsistent, eh? Okay. All right. And JMPZ, same question to you. How do you feel about your ZVP relative to the other 2 matchups you run into with Zerg?
I feel better with ZVP than ZVT, and ZVZ is just a coin flip always. So
Right.
I don't want to say it's my most comfortable matchup, but definitely better than Terran.
All right. It's less comfortable than ZVZ if you lose the coin flip. Or,
Yeah, there you go.
Win the coin flip, yeah. That makes sense. As a fellow Zerg player, can relate. All right. Well, I think that's all my questions here. KJ, did you have anything for our players?
You know, guys, I play both sides of this coin. I love Zerg, and I'm beginning to enjoy Protoss. So I'm really looking forward to seeing you guys duke it out. That's all my comment is.
All right, perfect. Well, we'll go ahead. You guys can hop back into some separate channels. We'll drag you back in for the post interview, and we'll hop into the game here.
All right, they're not
we are
on
starting
the,
out.
Yeah, they're not here anymore.
Yep. So we've got Tropical Sacrifice to start us off. We just ended the last series here. We're starting off. And we'll just make sure our players are ready again.
Yeah,
and we'll be hopping
the big
into game.
Code S match, guys. Here are the map
Yeah.
selections.
Instability, I'm sure, feeling a little bit of pressure lately, as you know, obviously it was such a fantastic result. I think it was 7-1 last season. You know, we want to kind of follow that up. Hopefully, we have Tropical Sacrifice followed by Data C, and then Moon Dance to end things out. As it does look like our players are ready.
Yeah, ET. What's your prediction here? What's the score?
I actually haven't seen JPZ play yet, but Instability, you know, definitely a strong player. But this league, Code S in particular, feels very, very underrepresented for Zerg. So you don't see, at least from my feelings over the last couple seasons, it feels like you don't see as much Zerg in there as you see Terran and Protoss. So we see a lot of that. We don't see as much PVZ out of Instability, so it's a little bit harder to predict this matchup for her. Obviously, though, she's capable of beating one of the 3 best players in the league, Dark Menace, who is a Zerg player. So I feel pretty good. So I'm gonna go to Squad Cheats.
Yeah. So what was the number? I don't think I really got the number that your score.
Oh, 2-1 for Instability.
2-1. I'm going with 2-0. I love JMPZ, especially since he just subbed. but I just don't see him beating Instability. But we'll see.
Yeah, we will see. As here we are in the bottom left-hand side, we got the pink Zerg player. He is
JMPZ.
And his opponent from Redstone, the red Protoss player, she is
Instability.
But yeah, my only hesitation with that. Oh, I think that is a
So
perfect wall right
close.
there.
That's so
you
close
can always
to the Nexus.
you can tell on this map in the pro scene. You can tell if it's in the right spot because it's always feels like, is that blocking? And that's usually my go-to on this map when I'm watching to know whether or not it's actually in the right spot.
Yeah.
Is it really like every time I watch a pro match, it's like, is that not blocking? It
Too
feels
close
like
for
that's
comfort.
blocking the Nexus. Oh yeah, absolutely. But yeah, I mean, my only hesitation with the 2-1 there is like, who all is Zerg? I guess you have Neutrophil is sometimes Zerg, and Frieden is sometimes Zerg, and then Dark Menace. Are there any dedicated Zergs outside of Dark Menace in the previous seasons, at least? I'm not sure.
That's a good question.
I might just
can't
be
think of it.
forgetting, but I don't remember a single other one. So that's one dedicated Zerg. That's not a
Yeah.
whole lot to
Yep.
work off of in terms of like how well she does.
And now we have two new ones, JMPZ
yeah.
and Gray.
So not only is it an oddball, but it's in a matchup that we don't know as much about. Obviously, one player, usually plays pretty similarly, and I'd say Instability just matches up well against Dark Menace. I mean, we can remember in her first season where she only won, I think it was 1 or maybe 2 series. Maybe it was 3. She didn't win very many series, but she had a lot of 2-1s. And one of those 1 wins was against Dark Menace, who hadn't dropped a match up until that point.
He's consensus number 1 Zerg for sure, and she has a way with him. So I don't. That's my rationale that JMPZ probably is a huge underdog here.
Right, but at the same time with that, Dark Menace, I think she just matches up well against Instability is a macro
style-wise.
beast, and yeah, Dark Menace is a macro gamer, and Instability is a macro gamer, right?
Yeah.
And that leaves a whole lot to be determined when it comes to this matchup, because there are some real difficult to hold aggressive builds that the Zerg can come out with here, if they choose to. But JMPZ may not do that. And if he does choose to macro, I think it's going to be a rough road ahead for him, as Instability is a very strong macro Protoss player.
Yes, you don't want to get in the long game with her.
Yeah. It's like Princess Bride, don't get involved in a macro war with Instability.
Oh, that was in
Or,
Instability was known from 20 years ago.
Yeah. As that adept is not walling it in, but I didn't tell JMPZ that. You have a Stargate on the way. Stalker on the way as well to push back any Overlord Scout. And Ling Speed gonna be finishing up. So nothing in particular happening just yet. We do have that third base on the way. JMPZ is going up to those 3 queens you expect to see. I didn't see
Looking
a fourth
better,
and
man.
fifth on those two.
JMPZ looks like he's been practicing because he looked a lot more standard, solid, drone, conscious.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's the big, dotting your I's and crossing your T's thing is just actually making drones. I remember when we were originally that shade finish is a little questionable. Maybe tuck in between the minerals. Oh, just gonna try and get a drone. 1 drone for an adapt to get a full scout. It's like, it's mediocre, right? It's not really great for you, but it's not the end of the world.
So ET, you didn't see his games last time, but I saw JMPZ. He was chronically under-droned. That's why I'm giving him a compliment that he looks like a normal Zerg this time.
Yeah. It's surprisingly tough. I hadn't realized it would be tough, but I was gonna say back when, as some players may remember, Rex from The Blind Leading the Deaf learned how to play Zerg because her and her husband played an Archon Zerg against Instability to help her practice for a match against Dark Menace.
Nice.
In one season. That's how she originally started playing Zerg. And she was the macro player. And I just watch and kind of give them little tips so that they were slightly stronger as an Archon to actually make it a bit more challenging for Instability. And so many times I just look and be like, there's like 13 larvae and like 1,000 minerals in the bank. And I'm like, make drones. Just make drones.
Well, you're
And
Zerg,
they like
man.
fire
You
up
wanna get
3.
that. Yeah.
They'd fire like 3 drones. I'm like, there's still 9 larvae.
Just hold the
like
drone
20
key,
drones,
buddy.
dude. Yep, that's it. That's what you got to learn. You got to go really hard one way or another as Zerg a lot of times. You either are making
Yeah.
just tons of workers or you're making tons of units. So definitely looking solid so far for sure. A lot of queens out on the field, which is nice. Oracle getting a little bit of scout out for instability, made a Void Ray as well, and got that third base coming up. Baneling Nest on the way really quickly, it feels like, for JMPZ. Am I crazy here? That's a really fast Baneling Nest, it feels like. That's the...
Because he doesn't have a Roach Warren to defend, so it's a safety bait.
Yeah, I guess. Safety Banes against depths or something like that, but...
Yeah. It's I don't hate it.
That's not too bad for sure. It's not going to hurt you much. It's 100 minerals and 50 gas. It's not going to kill you in a game.
Yeah, let's be real. Wait, at this
Whoa.
level, it's not gonna kill you. It's gonna
yeah.
kill you if you don't have it. And
Yeah,
you
it
need
could kill you if you don't have it, but 2 Stargates on the way, going up to 3 as instabilities. This is going to be mass Void Ray, as I would say Phoenix, but she's already got 2 Void Rays out and a third coming down as well.
I love it.
Going to give
Oh my gosh,
JMPZ a warm welcome to the map.
JMPZ is playing like night and day over his debut. I'm telling you, this is a different player. You should go back and watch YouTube of the first few games he had. This is a different player.
Could be those jitters. I don't know if he's played any type of tournament before.
Yeah.
But you definitely get those tournament jitters. Even, I mean, it's like, oh, there's no stakes here. What are you worried about, right? It's like, it's just a casual league, but it's still, it's nerve wracking.
You want to win. You still want to win.
You want to
You don't
win,
wanna-
and
you don't want to lose badly.
yeah, it's
That's-
like, yeah,
that's the
there's
normal
nothing on the line except all of my pride because this is being
Yep.
streamed. So it
And
definitely
live
you still
forever
get
on
those
the
jitters.
internet.
Yeah, exactly. So, might have just been those initial match jitters that you get sometimes. I know I've had that. I think I may have told this story, but I went up first couple times I participated in the ESL Open Cups. For some reason, I would always get TLO in the second round.
Oh
and
my god.
through something of fate, in the first game of both of the series I played against him, like 3 weeks apart from each other, I forgot my spawning pool in the first game.
Oh my gosh, you forgot your spawning pool
Yeah.
against
It would
TLO?
literally like, yeah,
That's
my
hilarious.
natural hatchery would finish up. I double tap Q to make my queens, and be like, nothing happened. So it happens to the best of us. Those tournament jitters for sure. But oh my goodness, is he gonna transfuse? The queens aren't on creep. Get on creep. Get on creep. Get on creep.
There's another transfuse.
Oh no! Oh man, just killing one Void Ray is not a worthy trade to lose your lair. And he didn't even get any of his lair tech stuff started. There's no hydrogen on the way, no baneling speed. I mean, it's just going to be +1/+1 slow banelings with queens, and that's all he's going to have for the next minute or two, really.
So,
That's
ET,
such a vicious snipe.
This is why I like to put an overlord here dropping creep.
Oh yeah,
there
absolutely.
in between.
Fill in your vision. Filling your vision's so important, and yeah.
Well, not
having a
only
creep
that,
there.
it's just really
Oh,
the
yeah,
creep to the main,
That's what you
right?
mean.
He
That's
was
what
so
you mean.
slow up that ramp.
Yeah, I think, if he could have just spammed those transfuses a little more, he might have kept it alive there, because they were running out of the overcharge, and that pretty much halves the damage they're doing against those buildings. And one Void Ray was about to go down. That could have been the difference, just having the creep Overlord, or just having some filled vision, just 1 or 2 Overlords outside that main base. But I don't think he was really aware of the Void Rays until that moment. Yeah, I mean, if you look at his vision, he made 1 foray into our main base with 1 Overlord. I don't think he'd even seen a Stargate or a single Stargate unit outside the Oracle. And it's perfectly natural to assume, oh, it's just 1 Oracle. That's something that Protoss does all the time. You're not really expecting triple Stargate Void Ray. So definitely unfortunate, but at the same time, I was like, oh, that's so unlucky. But no scouts. If you're not scouting, sometimes you're going to wind up getting punished. We saw that in the previous series with the Mutalisks, and this series with a literal lair going down to 3 Void Rays. It's not something you see every day.
Although, man, look at JPC's drone count, man.
It is good, but right now they're only just now getting to be effective at mining. And I mean, 69 workers to 83 is not something I ever look at and go, uh-oh, for the Protoss, right? But something I could look at and go, uh-oh, is 90 army supply to 50 for the Protoss versus the Zerg. That's not something you really want to see, especially when there's going to be 3 carriers and 8 Void Rays out against a grand total of 6 queens as far as things that shoot up. Hydra's just now getting started up. He is making a lot of them, but Hydra's, as we said, not very good against carriers. +1 on the way for the carriers as well. And +1 on the carriers is far more impactful than +1 on the Hydras because, as I mentioned before, carriers have 8 interceptors, and each interceptor shoots twice. which means for every volley of attacks that a carrier does, that +1 is doing 16 more damage per carrier.
Look at that! Look at the bank, man. JMPC. You know, listen, I get that, but I'm just really shocked how good he's playing here compared to the last one. He looks like a proper Zerg.
That's true. It is true. But at the same time, I think the bank is partially there because he doesn't have a macro hatchery and he lost his main base. So
And,
he had
I
a
wish he
whole
was
lot
more
of mining
active with
and
his
not a
links
lot
too.
of not
He
a lot
has
of
like
larva.
no vision. No vision. He has not even checked for a third base. He's just kind of macroing, all macro mode.
Yeah, which honestly, if you have to just focus on the macro to do it really well, like if your macro is going to be half as good, but you're scouting, it's probably better to just macro and not scout. Which that may be the difference between the last series where we were talking about how he looks night and day and this series. But one thing you do want is speed on your banelings, and he does not have that. You'll make the zealots able to split if she so desires, but apparently she does not so desire. But that said, I mean, these sentries should be able to force field off maybe some of the Hydralisks or even just a Guardian Shield's going to be
He's
so
attacking off one
impactful.
ramp on the one side. He should have split, but
Yeah, still, this is a lot of stuff. I think we need to see instability back off for sure. You want some storms out, I think. As if you're gonna, you can go mass carrier, but 3 carriers is not enough to beat Hydras. You need like 6 or more, which we do have 3 more popping out. We will have shield batteries and things like that. I wonder if we're gonna see a Psystorm. As yeah, I think the initial fight was great, but then you pull back from there, you know, and that was not what happened. And now, definitely looks concerning here, even with no Baneling speed. Is now on the way, +2/+2 on the way as well. And those Carapace upgrades are very impactful, especially since we haven't seen +2 start up on the carriers yet. Instability's being a little lazy here, man. Just going mass charge zealot against someone who has like 30 Banelings with your carriers, that could definitely backfire, and it already is backfiring, I would say. If there are no Banelings, charge zealots do so well against Hydras, but they're Banelings, so
his
that really doesn't
interceptor
matter.
count is getting really low. Per interceptor
Yeah.
count.
Yeah, needs to, well, JMPZ's going to back off, though. I think the longer that this game goes on, the better it gets for instability, because he's not actually killing the carriers, and she can replace interceptors all day. And if you don't push past once you kill the interceptors, then you probably shouldn't have even really killed the interceptors at all. It's not doing much for you.
He's getting double Spire, man. Maybe he could switch out of this.
Yeah, he definitely could. I'd like to see, I mean, with this mass zealot, it's like, those 6 zealots aren't going to do anything in this frontal fight. Just put them on a different control group and send them to that bottom base, you know? Do a run by with the zealots, they're going to have a lot that they can get done. As JMPZ, I don't think we've seen him split his army once in this game.
Yeah,
so.
and he doesn't check where he can kind of bust in, right? He tries to do some counterattacks, but that's fine.
Yeah.
He's playing like a Protoss that's macroing, if you think about it, right?
Yeah, definitely a little bit. I do like this out of instability. I mean, he's taking his whole army down there. Is that enough Zerglings to really clean that up? With +2/+2 it may be. Oh, but a great choke point out of the zealot there. Yeah, indeed. But man, no +2 on the carriers. That's going to be so impactful here when there's +1/+2 Hydras. Not having +2 on the carriers is literally life and death here for instability, I think. +2 is a massive upgrade for carriers. Yeah, man. No, she's being so lazy here. It's actually crazy. No storm, no upgrades. Just, I'm going to make a whole lot of carriers and A-move you if I can. That said, she did kill 10 drones. There are charge lots on the ground, which are doing pretty well. We see this trade here is very nice for instability. She is pulling him in a few different directions here. Again, like we said, just killing the interceptors is not enough. They just replenish. And, man, I mean, I'm saying she's playing lazy, but I guess lazy might be good enough. I mean, the carriers are almost out of interceptors, but they've traded out super well. If you look at the resources lost here, it's 5,000 resources in advantage for instability here, because interceptors cost 15 minerals apiece, and that's basically everything that JMPZ's been killing while he's been losing Hydras. Just for reference, 0 carriers dead to 57 Hydras dead.
He's doing double upgrade on the Spire, so I'm expecting a Mass Corruptor switch here, and he has it now.
Yeah, but unfortunately, this is right around the time where instability went, I guess I can't just A-move with carriers and zealots, and is now adding on Storm. She's now adding on Archons. So right as he's getting into a composition that's much better against just carriers, it's no longer just carriers. Corruptors are still the right move, but it goes from being like a free win if you can just shift-click the carriers to now you have to micro really hard. And this is the kind of micro that not even Grandmasters can do a lot of
it's
time.
hard. I deal with Skytoss, Azurg, and I'm always like either thinking I'm not sure I'm gonna win this to getting absolutely slaughtered.
Oh yeah, it's definitely a struggle bus, and with it's 5 Archons underneath. That makes the Banelings more obsolete. It makes the Zerglings more obsolete, and those storms are going to do a lot of damage if they do go down. Even a stasis ward coming down, and massive storms. Oh no, yeah, I think he needed to really 3 or 4 minutes ago when he was pushing that base, if he just continued pushing with the Hydras, I think it was game over.
Yeah,
the carriers
he
were
had a
so far
chance
down in
earlier.
upgrades, they just couldn't deal damage to the Hydralisk, basically.
Yeah, he also can get Viper. He has the Hive tech, so a Viper would be a pretty big deal too.
Yeah, I could definitely say we're probably not going to see that. It's sort of
It's
like the
hard to
ghosts
expect
in
that, yeah.
PvP at this level, where it feels like every time I cast a TVP, I'm like, if you just had ghosts, this would be like a free win. And then I ask them like, no ghosts, and they're like, don't even say that word to me. EMPs are the hardest thing in the game.
Oh, here it is.
It's definitely a hard micro to do. Yeah, I mean, he's
Oh,
going
the
in. Instability is
storm
just
is the
storm
problem.
all over everything. And don't forget, ladies and gentlemen, it's +2 Hydras, sure. Storm is a spell. It completely ignores that armor, so it's completely obsolete. It makes those Hydras so squishy. GG, man.
Stability takes it. We expected that, but I'll tell you this. It was closer than you thought.
I felt very justified after that game in my 2-1 prediction. Because that could've
now I'm scared about my
Yeah, that absolutely could have been a win there for him. If he just pushed the issue on that 5th base a few minutes before, I mean, he had it. It was just carriers. They had almost no interceptors, and he had so many Hydras, they could just absolutely shred the interceptors. If there's not heavy upgrades on the carriers, it's just not going to be enough.
Correct.
But,
One more thing too is I think if you hid the names, that could have been Dark Menace, man. That instability game.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
That's how good JMPZ looked.
Although, there was one major difference that I remember. The last
Yeah,
time-
Dark Menace was split. He would definitely do this around.
Split, but also JMPZ made upgrades. And as you may remember, in Dark Menace versus Instability, they had that 35-minute
that was
game
an
where
unusual,
he didn't make
unusual,
upgrades.
not that doesn't normally happen. I played him quite a few times.
No, I absolutely know. That was just so funny to me.
That's funny.
Like
yeah,
a 30-minute game and 0-0 Hydras and Corruptors versus 3-3 carriers. And it's just this is the most imbalanced. The probes could practically beat the Zergling and stuff.
It goes chess right too. Dark Menace is an active Rainer like Zerg who will go around with
That's true.
run bys.
Ling run bys probably would have done a lot in that game. Although Instability, I'll give her props for this. She's gotten a lot better at just throwing up static defense and stuff like that. I do remember once upon a time she'd be on 7 bases with 1 cannon.
Yeah, she's definitely one of the favorites to be in the finals again, right? So we'll see. We do have some new blood. Vales looks really good. Gray's looking decent if he kind of gets past Code A and to go to S5 playoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, any player, that's the great thing about the FSL, is if any given player, I'd say really in the Code S, just feels super inspired in a given season, I think they all have the potential to just really grind throughout the season, improve a whole lot, and just take the whole thing. They're all close enough in skill, and there's so much improvability. In the 5K tournaments and stuff like that, even, or at the top level, you just don't typically see a player just go from in a span of a month or something just suddenly be super great. It's things like, oh, look, we've seen this player, he's been around, he's been competing for 3 years, and we're finally seeing him break out. And this, you could literally see, I mean, Criminal is a great example. He just was really passionate about it, came back, didn't look very good in his first couple series, but by the end, I mean, he won the whole thing as far as the Code A goes, and even looked pretty
and it
solid in the
promoted to
S.
Code S.
Yep. So that said, it looks like we do have our players ready, so we'll be able to hop into Data C as game number 2. But yeah, I mean, that game definitely shows that it could go either way. That was very good macro out of JMPZ.
You're watching FSL Season 6.
All right, we are loading in to the bottom left-hand side of the map. We've got our pink Zerg player. He's down 0-1. Can he tie it up? He is.
JMPZ.
And his opponent, the red Protoss player. She's up 1-0. Can she close it out? She is.
Instability.
One of the things that's very interesting to me about instability, and I'd like to get your opinion on whether or not you kind of get this vibe as well, is it's like, I've almost never, there's like been maybe 1 or 2 series of instability where it didn't feel like relatively competitive, no matter who she's up against. She could be up against the person who's like 0-6, and it could still look like, oh yeah, they might be able to take a game here. They don't usually wind up doing it, but like, you could see a world where that game went the other way a lot of times.
You're right. I think
But she's also up against Dark Menace and Neutrophil, and it's like, yeah, she either beats them, or it looks like, oh yeah, I could definitely see her having won that, which is very interesting. A lot of players, it's like they either look completely dominant against almost everyone, or
the bottom
very
tier,
far
right?
behind.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
But yeah, it's funny. It's probably a bit of a curse because you always feel like I'm always on the edge of losing, but it definitely feels like her in particular. There's very few series where I was ever like, oh yeah, that was just like super one-sided. Funnily enough, the ones that come closest, I think, are her Protoss versus Terran. She feels really good at Protoss versus Terran, in particular.
Yep.
From what I remember, that was the first matchup she actually won in her first season, and then yeah, just in the second season, she looked pretty dominant in a couple of those. So, but Sir Malignant's match against her last season is a great one that comes to mind. We had that. What's that map? Blackburn. The base trade on Blackburn, where he was in her main base with Void Rays, and she was barely hanging onto her natural for like 10 minutes. Crazy stuff. But anyways, in this game, we've got nothing much happening.
So ET, you were going on that whole tangent. You were saying, so what do you think? Do you think I agree? So here's my answer.
Sorry, go ahead.
So here's my answer. I think it's because of her play, where when she's going well, she defends the first few things. She can definitely show her true skill, but the holes in her game was in the beginning, right? So Malignant is a very dangerous opponent. Can get some cheeses in and get ahead or even upset, right? Same thing with anyone else, right? We saw that with the Baneling bust, and even when I played her, when I did the Banshees or Mind Drops and all that. So she has vulnerabilities in terms of harassment, but when she gets going, she shows her class, and that's why it's probably the case where, hey, this could work, just because of those holes. So once she plugs those, though, she's at her class. Like, she's
right. Absolutely,
she's like the wall, right? The Showtime almost.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I do like in the chat, a couple people were like, if she just done this thing that Dark Menace did to win, that might have done it. And then Dark Menace pops in, and he's like, let me tell you, that wouldn't have done it. I know, it won't do enough. But regardless, we do have. Oh, I think this is her one gas, 7 gate all in.
Oh,
she's pulled this off a couple times.
I love this because this is a reaction. It's like, you're gonna back her like that, I'm gonna kill you.
Yeah, and this build hits hard. It's 7 gateways, just 1 gas geyser. You make a ton of zealots, like 1 or 2 sentries maybe, and a few stalkers and a warp prism, and you just go. And you just have so many units. There's no tech. There's no follow-up behind this unless you just kill like 40 workers and then barely don't kill them or something somehow.
You better get a Roach Warren soon or a Baneling Nest.
Yeah,
this is like... You criticized the Baneling Nest last time? He needs it.
Yeah, he needs it here for sure. Or a Roach Warren,
really,
just
a Roach
something.
Warren. And a wall.
Right now, he's probably just like, gotta make sure that my lair doesn't get sniped by the Void Rays when they come in.
Oh, he doesn't scout.
Meanwhile...
we saw in the last game, man, he'd never scouted. He just kind of stuck in his base.
And that's not
going
to work here. Yeah, the Void Ray or the Overlord barely missing. He does see the Zealot warp in, but let's see. It's approximately 6 lings, and he's making drones. Oh no, he's going up to 46 workers. There should be no way that he holds this with 46 workers.
He sees it now, but
you need to cut it like 40 worker or like 35 workers or something like that to hold this. Maybe even 30.
This is where
just
you pull
so
everything.
all in.
Just get a wall, and then that's your only hope.
Supply
you
blocked.
Can't even stay.
He made 12 lings, but now he supply block his instability, sniped an Overlord as well. He's going to need to start up another Overlord, but a lot of times in tense moments like this, you don't hear the supply block notification. Yeah. Okay, we do see 2 Overlords, but that's going to be 17 seconds, which means it's going to be a good 40 seconds before he has any more units.
His only chance that
instability
Prism goes
setting
down.
up in the Spore.
Oh, one more hit.
Barely keeps that alive. She really just needed to go for the natural, though. I feel don't
Yep.
like it's not enough to get the 3rd here. This is a kill move, and if it doesn't get a kill, just killing a third's not really enough damage there, but she's being very slow about it. She could maybe elevate her up into the main base, though. He's mainly relying on spine crawlers because of that supply block. He is so supply blocked right now.
He needs to morph some banelings. He's not doing it. He lost his
Oh,
window.
yeah. Only got 50 gas or so.
Oh,
In she comes.
Although...
Yeah, the spine crawls are finishing up. This was what I was saying. You can't just focus on that third base. You got to go, 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 go. This is a kill move here. But even so, I mean, there's enough stalkers. They do so much damage. And zealots take a long time to die to spine crawlers. So, GG, man. Well, you were right.
All right, let's bring him in to the chat.
And I would say a tale as old as Zerg there. The 46 workers, oh wait, oh no. I've definitely had that happen a time or two. As I was saying to KJ, I think the things going through your mind is like, all right, I just got to make sure to have my queens in the main so I don't lose my lair. And oh goodness, it's a 7-gate all in. Anyways, let's talk to you a little bit about those games. Game number 1, it felt like you actually had a pretty good chance. I was very worried after that lair snipe. I think maybe just not anticipating the void rays, because that's obviously not as much of a in-style move, but those 3 void rays snipe in the lair felt like it really put you in a bad spot. But you had really great macro. KJ was commenting that you looked like a whole different player from your previous game, so maybe getting a little bit of those jitters out from the tournaments and stuff. Game 1, it was really close. How were you feeling in that game with the Hydra comp there?
I felt fine until obviously the lair snipe put me behind. I wasn't able to get my Hydralisk Den down before that happened. Had that have happened, I felt like it probably would have been a different game. But game 2, I was just outclassed.
Right. Yeah, just not getting the scout on that build's pretty much a death sentence. It's a nasty, nasty all in. I forget which pro instability ripped that one from. I think it was Hearthstone or something. We can ask her, but I think a pretty good showing considering how strong instability is, especially in that game number 1. I mean, there were several moments where the carriers were like completely out of interceptors. You still had like 20, 30 Hydras left. And it was like, you might be able to push through. Just barely holding on was instability. So a very well done game 1 in particular. And I think that showed a lot of potential for your future in this tournament. So good luck in the rest of your series. And, just because you have a couple bad results at the beginning, don't give up by any means. We've seen players improve so much just throughout the season. So you could definitely come back around, make it to the playoffs, and maybe even win the whole thing with that kind of performance. So very well done.
Yeah. I want to add, look, JMPZ, as he said, you look different from your debut to now. I was like, wow, he's playing really well. You backroad. The only thing that I think you need to add now for your next match is actively scout. You gotta scout because you never actually looked at all. And so game 2, there's no way you would win that period, right? Just because it's an all-in. If you don't see the all-in coming, you're just dead. But game 1 was perfect to me. If you had saved that, even after that, ET pointed out they actually had a chance. I mean, you had a lot of drones, you had a lot of Hydras. She had no interceptors. F2 A move, boom, you win. But you know, we have map hacks. We can see the whole thing, and you don't. So.
Yeah, when I ran into one base, I saw a bunch of cannons, and I just assumed I could not get in there, so I didn't want to throw away what I thought was me getting back into the game. Obviously, had I known I was ahead of
you were I think you were
right. It's hard to judge. Especially, like, once you lose your lair that early on in the game, I think you're basically behind in your mind until the game ends, whether you win or lose. I've definitely had that where I'm just like, I'm dead, and then I look at the replay and it's like, I was up 60 supply? Stuff like that. So it's hard to judge, but very well done in that first game. So looking forward to seeing how you perform throughout the rest of the tournament for sure.
It was fun games for sure.
Yeah. Thanks for playing. We'll go ahead and hop over to instability here really quick. I guess my first question, because I can't remember, where did you wind up getting that? I think we've seen it 2 or 3 times now. That 7-gate all in. What's your source? Oh, so you're muted. There you go.
Yeah, I know. I said before I just got it off spawning tool. I don't know who invented it.
Okay. Well, a very strong build. Obviously, especially if they don't know it's coming. I find that it's very good. Game number 1, were you starting to feel worried with just the massive amounts of Hydras and Banelings coming towards you? I mean, it felt like your carriers had 0 interceptors more than they had, all their interceptors for most of that game. Was that pretty worrying to you, or did you feel fairly in control?
Oh no, it was yeah, I was not expecting him to macro out of it as well as he did. So props to him, I guess. I underestimated my opponent, yeah, so it was very I guess terrifying.
Right. I was saying a little bit in the cast, and maybe that's why I was like, I feel like she's being like incredibly lazy here to go mass charge lock carrier into like 30 banelings. Was that sort of just like you're like, well, I've sniped the lair, time to just run along and claim my trophy here, and then you kind of get like 10 minutes in, and you're like, he's still alive, and I'm starting to feel a little worried because it was like you just like suddenly you're like, okay, guess I need Storm here, and you just kind of threw down all the tech and stuff. Is that sort of what it is? You're just like, all right, time to clean up, collect game 1, move on to game 2, and then it just took a little while to kind of realize like, oh, this is still a game.
Yeah, I thought I would just win early before I really needed all the tech. So that was my mistake.
Yeah, the hubris, right? It's definitely like there's some moves you get where you're just like, oh, the game's over now, and then it doesn't wind up being that way. It can really throw you off. Like for Zerg, I think it's really like 12 pool against another Zerg. You kill the base, you kill a couple drones, and you're like, I've won the game, and then like 10 minutes later you die. But definitely sniping the lair can feel like that, I'd imagine. KJ, any comments here for instability?
Instability, I'm curious about game 2 was brilliant as far as a build, right? I like it. I'm gonna look it up. It's awesome. It's gonna help me with my my Protoss games too, right? I've been macroing it. It's a pain in the butt to do because you screw it up, you're dead. But game 1, you did this Void Ray build. Tell me about that one, because it feels so uneasy for me because it's just Void Rays to snipe. Is that what that is?
Actually, the sniping the lair isn't part of the build order or anything. I just sort of used a standard Stargate opener and decided to try it.
Happy accidents with instability,
extra.
Ross.
So yeah, you just decided to add 2 more Stargates and just go Sky Toss, basically.
Yeah, I wasn't sure what I was gonna do at the beginning of the game, but I mean, if he didn't have a lair for a while, I figured Hydras wouldn't be much of a problem.
Got it. Cool. That's all I had.
Yeah, I think some very, very cool games throughout tonight. And obviously, we'll be heading next week, Wednesday and Friday. We'll have more games, I believe.
Yep.
And then in just a couple weeks, we're looking at the Psystorm Cup itself. We'll have a little FSL showcase there.
That's
so
right, guys. Just
definitely
to
a lot to look forward to.
We'll see some of the players here, including. Is Instability gonna be there?
Yes, we'll have Instability.
There you go.
We'll
She'll be there. Go ahead.
We'll have all your favorite names and faces, hopefully.
That's right.
I think we're going to have those 2 jokers will be there as well. We're
right.
not sure if they'll wind up playing in the showcase, but they'll be around.
Yep. So Dark Menace, Neutrophil will be there also. We got Hyper Turtle and War Bunnies planning on being there. Several others that I escapes my mind. Oh, Science Crew is going to be there. Kitty Cat Gamer, Miss Uber XL. Stu Blue. This is a big showing, man.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. The most FSL people we've ever had at a Psystorm Cup, and that's definitely not because there hasn't been a Psystorm Cup since the FSL started or anything.
That's right.
I'm actually personally super happy that we're back into the swing of things with the Psystorm Cup. It's really cool to see. It's been a few years because of the darned COVID, but and I guess y'all's truly, KJ and myself will be there as well.
That's right.
Hopping on the mic for an undisclosed amount of time. We'll want to see how that goes.
We have so here's the schedule. On Sunday, we have 1 hour to have a showcase, and I'm thinking it's a 2v2 free for all, right? Something like that. So you'll be on the main stage. The players will be on the main stage, so it'll be a lot of fun. That's the plan. But I think JMPZ and Instability is ready to get going on some ladder or some Friday night shenanigans. So.
Oh, I already
guys.
started. Was I not supposed to start my ladder game?
No worries. you know, enjoy. See you guys next time, and I'll close off here with with ET. So ET, let's talk about the what happened tonight. Why don't you recap real quick for those who just kind of.
Yeah, so we had a little bit of a one-sided 2v2. Those two jokers, mostly in it just to have fun, and wound up going against Valhurt, who's a pretty highly ranked team overall. Was a 2-0 result, but some fun games there, some attempts at proxies, but did get scouted. The Code A, we followed it up with Gray, playing his debut match versus Hyper Turtle. Game 1, it looked like, the old dog was going to show the new dog that he doesn't need new tricks, but after that first solid game from Hyper Turtle, some aggression out of game 2 and 3 from Gray, both with a 12 pool and then an early pool into a lot of Mutalisks. The Roach all in game number 3. Did manage to clean that out, leaving Gray with his first win from his first series and looking in decent shape for the whole tournament. We'll see how he shapes up throughout, as obviously there's a whole lot of games to go. Right. And then closing it out, we've got Instability versus JMPZ we just had in the Code S. Instability still reigning supreme, has not dropped a map yet this tournament.
Yeah, and looking forward to next week. On Wednesday, we have Noka versus, and that's a new team, Tortoise and Hare, back there again. Cyan Mighty Ant, that'll be fun. DLS Mizell and Hurtin' Time. And then for Friday, those two jokers are back with Bista Fusion on 2v2, and then Stu Blue Noob Lord, and then Ghost Chant Hurtin' Time. So that's what's on for next week. I guess that'll do it. ET, thanks for coming on and casting as usual. Fantastic. Our FSL premier caster. And yours truly. We'll see you guys. Take care. See ya.
Take care.
Sarah, what have you done?
Kerrigan, the die you cast. This is the last day. Your swarm darkens the sky of any planet.
Forget Minsk. Forget all of it.
When we are done here, I will return to my people and accept their judgment.
Command, we've found Kerrigan. She's holed up in a Zerg base.
I made my peace long ago.
Consider it done. For ire.